Chapter 1109. It's getting stronger and stronger. Wang Feng muttered. This avatar was ridiculously strong, even though it had the foundation of the main body. It might even surpass the main body in the future. Wang Fengxin calmed down as he retracted his purple origin. Boss, this. She scratched his head and looked at Wang Feng. He didn't know what to say. Could it be that the heaven-grade lightning punishment was caused by Boss? But was that possible? Was that a true heavenly tribulation lightning punishment? Depending on the cultivation of soul beasts, the strength of their heavenly tribulations would be different. The heavenly tribulation that Lin Lord Bing Mu faced was extremely strong, because he was only one step away from becoming a god. The heaven-grade lightning punishment earlier wasn't as strong as Lin Lord Bing Mu's heavenly tribulation. However, it was enough to threaten 100,000-year soul beast. Those who were weaker wouldn't be able to withstand it. This was only the power of judgment that had just been awakened. As Wang Feng's soul power increased, the purple origin patterns would become stronger. I'm not too sure now. Let's talk about it when the time comes. Wang Feng said casually. It wasn't easy to figure out the origin power of the origin tribulation God King in a short period of time. The sudden appearance of the mysterious lightning was like a flash in the pan. It disappeared after a short while. No one knew what happened. A few days later, Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong went to find Wang Feng again. Xiao Xiao was with them. Teacher, we'll be taking the entrance exam the day after tomorrow. Hui Yuhao was a little excited. After 3 months of cultivation, his originally skinny body had become a little more robust. There was even a soft silver-patterned silkworm on his shoulder. After that battle, the concept of soul contract masters and soul contract beasts appeared in the Shrek Academy. Yuhao didn't keep this silver-patterned silkworm anymore. He wouldn't hide it in front of Wang Dong. Under Wang Feng's guidance, this adorable baby silkworm had been nurtured to a fair and tender state. Its cultivation had also increased by a few hundred years. It should be able to reach the 1,000-year level soon, although it was much slower than Long Xie. Long Xie's cultivation was close to 8,000 years now. Wang Dong was a little envious as he looked at this cute silkworm. He also wanted to raise such a cute soul beast. Even if it didn't have any fighting strength, it didn't matter. It was so cute, and he could even keep it by his side. Xiao Xiao, who was at the side, poked the silver-patterned silkworm with her finger. It felt very soft and comfortable. It had to be said that such soul beasts were extremely lethal to girls. Big brother, when can you make us soul runners too? Xiao Xiao clasped her hands behind her back and looked at Wang Feng with a smile. Ever since she found out that Wang Feng had left the Shrek Academy, she often came to see Wang Feng, wanting to know more about the soul runners. This was especially so after seeing Hui Yuhao's soul-carving beast. After you pass the entrance exam, Wang Feng thought for a while and said, when the time comes, I will be a teacher in the academy for a period of time. I will choose some students and try to make them soul contractors. I will also impart to you the knowledge of the soul bonding beast and the method to cultivate it. There are already some rules for soul renters. As the first batch of soul renters, hearing this, the 3 of them were stunned. Pleasant surprise appeared on the faces of the 3. Wang Fengxin said, he wanted to choose a few people for the experiment. From Hui Yuhao, who was not even rank 20, to rank 70 soul sages, he would choose some people from this range. He wanted to see the actual situation. Different soul power ranks had different soul rings. What if he could guarantee that they would sign a life contract with a soul beast? At the same time, what kind of changes would there be after signing a soul contract with a soul master of different ranks? In fact, the ideal situation for soul renters was Hui Yuhao's situation. From the first soul ring, it was a soul-carving beast that was slowly nurtured. However, since he was going to spread it now, he couldn't avoid letting these soul masters who already had many soul rings sign a life contract. Wang Feng looked at the 3 of them. Hui Yuhao seemed to be rank 16. This was also thanks to Su Sanshi. Over the past 2 months, Su Sanshi had also come to find Wang Feng, wanting to apologize for what happened in the soul dueling arena. Thus, he gave him a mysterious water pill that was worth 1,000 gold. The mysterious water pill was worth 1,000 gold because it could increase a soul master's aptitude. Simply put, it increased a soul master's innate soul power rank. Wang Feng didn't have any use for it, so he gave it to Hui Yuhao. After eating this pill, Hui Yuhao's aptitude had been increased by the silver-patterned silkworm's life energy. After eating this pill, he'd reached rank 16 in less than 3 months. His speed had soared. In addition to the soul skills that Hui Yuhao and the silver-patterned silkworm possessed, as well as the Tang Sect's consummate skills, his current strength was many times stronger than before. "Can I become your student as long as I become the champion?" Wang Dong asked directly. Wang Feng shook his head. To be precise, he was the one who chose them. It didn't matter if they became the champion or not. Seeing this, Wang Dong curled his lips. Hui Yuhao whispered, "Teacher has very high standards. As long as we become the champion, you'll definitely become his student. The same goes for Xiao Xiao. However, when the time comes, you'll enter the sect later than me, so I'll be your eldest senior brother." Wang Dong glared at him. The two of them lived in the same dorm. During the past 2 months, they'd trained together and were inseparable. Not to mention humans, even animals had feelings. The two of them naturally became familiar with each other, and their relationship became deeper and deeper. "Big brother, you said you were going to call me a blowjob." Xiao Xiao pouted. "You can't go back on your word. When the time comes, you must choose me as your student. I also want to raise a cute soul beast." Wang Feng coughed a few times. The reason why these two fellows wanted to become soul contract masters was because they wanted to raise a cute soul contract beast. They were really buying the casket and returning the pearl. They didn't understand at all how powerful soul charmers were. These little girls' focus was completely different. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, "Go and prepare." Wang Feng chased the 3 of them away. "I'll go and take a look at the freshman assessment when I'm free." The 3 of them nodded. They stayed for a while and talked about the interesting things that had happened in the academy recently, then left. The next day, another person came to find Wang Feng. It was Zhou Yi, who'd fought with Wang Feng in the soul dueling area. "Sir, that Hui Yuhao should be your disciple, right?" Zhou Yi smiled as she spoke. "You can say that." Wang Feng nodded. "Did you come to find me because of my disciple? Did he get into trouble?" "No, he didn't. It's just that I want to introduce him to my lover." Zhou Yi hurriedly said, "My lover is a teacher in the soul tool department. Because your disciple possesses a rare spiritual type martial soul, he's actually very suitable for the soul tool department. I came to ask for your permission. At the same time, I also have a request." Chapter 11:10. "Oh." Wang Feng glanced at him in astonishment. He'd been in Shrek for over 2 months. It wasn't as if he didn't know what was going on outside. The academy was divided into 2 factions, the Martial Soul Department and the Soul Tool Department. The Soul Tool Department was formed because of the Sun Moon Empire's increasingly powerful soul tool technology. Thus, the Shrek Academy had no choice but to establish this department several hundred years ago to research soul tool technology. However, it was clear that this department didn't have much of an inclination towards martial soul cultivation in the academy. There was also a certain amount of competition for resources between the 2 departments. Zhou Yi was a teacher of the Martial Soul Department, but he didn't expect her to send a student of the Martial Soul Department to the Soul Tool Department. As expected, women were all extroverted. "No problem." Wang Feng nodded. "I've studied soul tool technology before. Due to the fact that spiritual-type martial souls possess powerful spiritual power, they're able to greatly improve the assembly of various compact components and the carving of special inscription formations. Senior, you also understand soul tool technology?" Zhou Yi asked in astonishment. Just based on this sentence, he clearly had a deep understanding of soul tool technology. Was he omnipotent? Wang Feng didn't answer. With his spiritual power, he could easily control the mysterious underworld spike 10,000 years ago. He could change it into various forms and carry out all sorts of strange attacks. Later on, he could even use it to kill people 10,000 years later. With such powerful spiritual power control, soul tool techniques were simply too easy for Wang Feng. When Juzi and Cuckoo had shown him the flying-type soul tool, he'd been able to see through most of it with a single glance. Wang Feng knew everything about the structure of the soul tool's internal components and the inscription formations on the soul tool's core. He even knew where the problem with the flying-type soul tool was. Seeing that Wang Feng didn't answer, Zhou didn't ask any further. She was the teacher in charge of this batch of freshmen and happened to be in charge of Hui Yuhao's class. However, she'd also witnessed his potential. This was especially so after seeing his silver-patterned silkworm and the soul rings that were gradually becoming stronger. She had a vague idea of how powerful a soul charger was, and guessed that he was very likely Wang Feng's disciple. "What else do you want?" Wang Feng continued to ask. Zhou hesitated for a moment, then said, "I heard that Senior will become a teacher in the academy and help some soul masters become the first batch of soul chargers. My wife also has a disciple. When she heard about this, she felt that it was very interesting. If possible, I hope that Senior can choose my lover's disciple as your student. Of course, his talent and aptitude are also very strong." Wang Feng laughed. "Teacher Zhou, a person's energy is limited, regardless of whether they were soul masters, soul engineers, or soul contractors, unless you have a strong mental strength to support it. Otherwise, having 3 professions at the same time will cause you to lose sight of one and lose sight of another. Aren't you worried that your lover's disciple won't be able to improve in terms of soul tool technology?" Zhou, you seem to have already thought about this point. She smiled and said, "Senior, you're right. However, if you encounter a bottleneck in one of these areas, can't you just change your path and try again? Maybe I can get some new inspiration?" Hearing this, Wang Feng laughed out loud. These teachers all had their own ideas. However, that was the truth. "No problem, I agree." Wang Feng smiled. "Thank you, Senior." Zhou bowed respectfully towards Wang Feng. This was actually a request from her lover. Perhaps the students didn't know much about soul contractors, and they didn't know much about them. For girls like Wang Dong, they only wanted to raise a cute soul beast. But for many soul cultivators with profound cultivation, they knew just how great of an influence a soul contract master could have on a soul cultivator. They could even change the structure of the world. After Zhou left, Wang Feng packed up and wanted to see how the competition was going. As he walked along the riverbank towards the teaching area, Wang Feng sniffed the breeze by the lakeside. He was thinking about the first batch of soul contractors. "Boss, how many students do you intend to take in?" Long Xia asked curiously. 7. Back then, Little 3 and the others were Shrek's 7 monsters. "I can take in 7 of them," Wang Feng said. "No more than 10. With this batch of soul contractors, Wang Feng would be able to observe the life contract better and perfect it." The man and beast chatted casually. At this moment, a red duck appeared from the lakeside. It was accompanied by a scorching aura. "Boss, something's happening at the sea god's lake." Long Xia's voice could be heard. Wang Feng sensed it too. The geography of the sea god's pavilion was similar to the ring-shaped island on the sea god's island. At this moment, in the distance, there was a small red duck running on the surface of the water, madly rushing towards the shore of the lake. With Wang Feng's eyesight, he could see it very clearly. It was a lady. She was burning with a layer of fire. She was around 20 years old. She had a charming face and a great figure. Her fiery red hair surprised Wang Feng. He felt that she was familiar. Wang Feng was stunned when he saw the martial soul on his opponent's body. Scorching aura surged towards him. The fire on her body became brighter and brighter. She looked like a sun. She exuded an extreme heat. Everywhere she passed, the lake water below would evaporate into countless clouds of mist. She was extremely fast. She looked like a fighter jet flying across the lake. She caused a lot of exhaust. Her aura was terrifying. Very soon, the lady reached the lakeside. She had lost her mind. She didn't control the fire on her body. She allowed the scorching heat to roast her surroundings. At the same time, a blinding ball of fire rose from her hand. Rumble. Water pillars that were dozens of meters tall bloomed in this ball of fire. At this moment, the lady seemed to have noticed the students on the lakeside. The flames in her hand emitted a demonic light and fell towards the lakeside. In an instant, many students on the lakeside screamed and ran away. Fortunately, today was the day of the entrance exam. There weren't many people on the lakeside. Very soon, there was no one left. Many of the senior students were very familiar with her. They ran and shouted, "Run! She's coming again." It was obvious that this wasn't the first time they had experienced something like this. As the students ran away one after another, the girl with flames all over her body turned her gaze to Wang Feng, who was the only one left. With a sharp whistle, the woman's enchanting peach blossom eyes were burning with pure flames, purple flames. Wang Feng looked at the flames on the lady's body and the phoenix wings on her back. He was speechless. Isn't this Fatty Ma's evil phoenix martial soul? This girl, could it be that she lost control of her evil fire? P.S. 5 chapters today. There will be more tomorrow in a chapter. Chapter 11:11. Never in his wildest dreams did Wang Feng expect to see Fatty's evil phoenix martial soul here. Could she be Fatty's descendant? Wang Feng felt a little strange. Fatty became the fire god. Although Bai Chunxiang's talent was limited, she followed Fatty to the godly realm. Logically speaking, even if they had descendants, they couldn't have stayed in the Douluo continent. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if there was a descendant left behind on the Douluo continent, it was impossible for them to inherit Fatty's evil phoenix flame. Fatty's martial soul had mutated into a 10-headed phoenix. His descendants should also be 10-headed phoenixes. They shouldn't be the original evil phoenix. Furthermore, it had been 10,000 years. Wang Feng felt extremely strange. That familiar aura made Wang Feng turn his head slightly. The sound of flames exploding could be heard. Wang Feng thought for a few seconds before taking out Lin Lord Icy Wood's egg. Instantly, the temperature in the air rose. The aura of absolute ice in the egg completely dispersed the surrounding heat. Lin Lord Icy Wood's egg was now the color of ice crystals. The enormous Xiantian essence within had already fused with Lin Lord Icy Wood's soul. Lin Lord Icy Wood was also the purest and most ancient elemental spirit in the world. It was stronger than the Snow Empress and possessed the power of absolute ice. It was too easy to suppress such an evil fire aura. However, after the Snow Empress woke up, she should be stronger than Lin Lord Icy Wood. Go! Wang Feng held the egg in his hand in midair. That figure seemed to have felt the coldness and quickly flew towards Wang Feng. The flames in her hand were actually frozen when they came into contact with the egg. It was extremely strange. Even the shape of the flames could be seen clearly through the ice crystals. Lin Lord Icy Wood was awake inside the egg. It was just that it was accumulating its form. The power of absolute ice was so strong that it could even freeze a heavenly tribulation. It was very powerful. This was a power that surpassed the ultimate element. To a certain extent, it was close to the power of laws. Otherwise, Lin Lord Icy Wood wouldn't be so strong. Seeing that the figure was attracted to him, Wang Feng took a step forward and struck the back of the woman's shoulder with a chop. Ah! The woman moaned softly and fell to the ground. Taking a closer look, Wang Feng discovered that this girl was indeed a peerless beauty. However, perhaps due to the eruption of the evil flame, her face was incomparably red. Her gaze was as if she had drunk a few dozen pounds of wine, and her pupils were dilated. It was obvious that she had lost consciousness due to the evil flame in her martial spirit. When Ma Hongjuan's evil fire erupted back then, he relied on going to brothels to vent it. Wang Feng suddenly thought of this. However, after so many years, judging from her cultivation and age, she should be one of the top students in the Shrek Academy. The Shrek Academy had been developing for so many years. Logically speaking, there should be a way to help this girl suppress it. Back then, Ma Hongjun could only go to brothels because the conditions were too poor. He could only use the most unskilled method to suppress the evil fire. At this time, several figures floated over from the shore of the lake. They seemed to be searching for something. The three of them were led by an old man. He immediately noticed Wang Feng and Ma Xiaotao, who were standing on the shore. Xiao Tao is here. The old man shouted, and the other two immediately stopped searching and quickly came to Wang Feng's side. It's you? The old man in the lead was hale and hearty. He had white hair and a youthful face. After seeing that Ma Xiaotao was fine, his nervous expression eased. Then, he looked at Wang Feng and was slightly surprised. You know me? Wang Feng also looked at the two of them in surprise. However, when he remembered that this place came from the island, he more or less understood. Soul Contract Master, Wang Feng. How can we not know each other? The old man laughed. I am Lin Songxing, a consecrator of the Sea God's Pavilion. These two are also consecrators. A consecrator of the Sea God's Pavilion meant that he was an elder of the Sea God's Pavilion. Elder Lin, let's take a look at Xiao Tao's situation first. A white-robed old man on the left hurriedly said. Lin Songxing nodded and walked to Ma Xiaotao's side. At this time, the evil fire on Ma Xiaotao's body had been completely suppressed by the power of absolute ice. Her scarlet skin was disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. A faint green soul power exploded from Lin Songxing's body. It was filled with the aura of life and entered the girl's body. After a while, Lin Songxing was slightly startled. The evil fire on Xiaotao's body seems to have completely recovered. Moreover, it won't recur for at least half a year. Hearing this, the two teachers at the side were instantly shocked. Lin Songxing raised his head and looked at Wang Feng. Did you do it? You can say so, Wang Feng replied. To be precise, it was Egg who did it. From what I know, Xiao Tao's evil fire can only be suppressed by ice and water-type soul power. To be able to suppress it for so long, even ice-type soul power can't do it. You are. The white-robed old man looked at Wang Feng with uncertainty. Shouldn't you tell me about this girl's situation first? Wang Feng asked back. Her attack was also because the surrounding people ran quickly. Otherwise, many people would have been injured. Hearing this, the white-robed old man was stunned and quickly explained the girl's situation. After hearing this, Wang Feng felt a little speechless. This was probably really Ma Hongjuan's descendant. Moreover, Wang Feng was sure that this was definitely not Ma Hongjun and Bai Qinxiang's descendant. This was because when Ma Hongjun and Bai Qinxiang were together, his martial soul had completely changed. Especially after Ma Hongjun consumed the sparrow-crowned phoenix-tail sunflower, his martial soul was no longer corroded by the evil fire. This was very likely the descendant of Ma Hongjun before he consumed the sparrow-crowned phoenix-tail sunflower. It was possible that he had a one-night stand with a woman, of course. Wang Feng didn't rule out the possibility that something similar to Ma Hongjuan's situation had happened in the past 10,000 years. Don't you have a solution? Wang Feng frowned. The evil fire in her martial soul can be cured by consuming a special natural treasure. Don't tell me that the Shrek Academy doesn't have any natural treasures after so many years. I remember that the Tang sect occupies a treasured land. With the relationship between the Shrek Academy and the Tang sect, it shouldn't be a problem for them to obtain an immortal herb, right? Wang Feng questioned. It was fine in the past. Lin Songxing sighed. The place you're talking about is called the Ice Fire Yin Yang Well, right? That place was occupied by the evil beasts a few hundred years ago. That soul beast forest has become the evil demon forest. Hearing this, Wang Feng was stunned. It was occupied? What about soul rings? Wang Feng continued to frown. The solution to her evil fire is to obtain an ice-type soul ring that can suppress and even change it. With the relationship between humans and the extreme north, it shouldn't be difficult to find a few soul beasts that died accidentally and obtain soul rings, right? End of chapter. Chapter 11-12. The extreme north was marked on the map as a friendly soul beast forest for humans. Even if they couldn't enter to hunt soul beasts, there were bound to be many soul beasts there, either because of fighting or because of their lifespan. There were bound to be deaths. Wang Feng didn't believe that Qing Qing and the rest were so stingy. They wouldn't keep soul beasts that had died of natural causes. It's possible, Elder Lin whispered, but it would have been possible if it was a few decades ago. But in the past 10 years, the extreme north has been plagued by demonic beasts. Many ice-type soul beasts have been infected with the aura of demonic beasts after their deaths, and it's not easy to absorb them. They can't be easily absorbed unless we send Elder Mu and Elder Xian to negotiate with the other overlords. But Elder Lin sighed as he spoke until here. But it wasn't worth it. Although this girl was very talented and was one of the best in the academy, she wasn't worth sending 2 rank 99 titled Dalu to do this for her. If there was any danger, these 2 rank 99 titled Dalu were Shrek's pillars. After all, the extreme north was too dangerous. Even if the other overlords had helped humans a few times, who knew what would happen inside? Wang Feng focused his gaze. Were these evil beasts already so powerful? Furthermore, ordinary ice-type soul beast soul rings won't be able to suppress Xiao Tao's evil fire. Elder Lin shook his head and said, they still need an ultimate ice-type soul beast. Otherwise, if their elements aren't equal, the soul ring will be corroded by Xiao Tao's evil fire, and irreversible changes will occur. When that happens, it'll be even more troublesome. Soul rings from ultimate soul beasts are even rarer. The other overlords won't give up such soul beasts. That's because such soul beasts are very rare, even among soul beasts. Otherwise, Elder Mu and Elder Xian would have given it a try. This might be the main reason. Wang Feng shook his head. The Shrek Academy didn't do anything wrong. Soul beasts with the power of ice were usually soul beasts that had cultivated for more than 100,000 years. For example, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, the Sky Dream Ice Worm, the Snow Empress, and so on. Qing Qing probably wouldn't give such a soul beast to a human as a soul ring. Therefore, we can only use a soul master with a water-type martial soul to temporarily suppress it. It's just that as Little Tao's cultivation level grew higher and higher, the evil fire in her body became more and more vigorous, and the suppression time became shorter and shorter. Elder Lin looked at Wang Feng. But could it be that he had twin martial spirits? The other martial soul possessed the power of ice? The 3 of them exchanged glances. However, Wang Feng shook his head and took his leave. He was only borrowing Qilin Lord Bang Mu's absolute ice power to temporarily suppress it. Moreover, whether it was the power of absolute ice or the power of extreme ice, they were all external forces and could only be suppressed. Unless Ma Xiaotao had a soul ring that belonged to her, or if she used a special treasure, she wouldn't be able to change her situation. Ma Xiaotao's condition was much worse than Ma Hongjuan's. Ma Hongjun had taken the sparrow-crowned phoenix tail flower when he was over level 30, and his condition had improved a long time ago. But Ma Xiaotao was a soul emperor. Her evil fire was far stronger than Ma Hongjuan's. Suppressing it was only a temporary solution. Every time it was suppressed, the effect would decrease. If he had the primal chaos green lotus in his main body, he would be able to purify it easily. However, his main body still loved the 5-color mountain. Wang Feng didn't have time to care about this for now. Lin Songxing was a little curious as he watched Wang Feng leave. This person is really mysterious. Lin Songxing sighed. However, he can solve Xiao Dao's problem. Elder Lin, he will become a teacher in the academy in a few days. Why don't you let Ma Xiaotao become his student? Maybe he can improve Xiao Dao's condition. We can also take a look at that Soul Contract Master. Soul Contract Master. The white-robed elder frowned. I feel that this Soul Contract Master isn't the right path. How many years of grudges have humans and soul beasts accumulated? How many soul beasts have we killed? How many humans have soul beasts killed? Even if we become partners and have a special agreement, who knows if those soul beasts will devour their masters? Let him choose the new disciples. That's enough. It's not good to send Xiao Tao over like this, right? No matter what, Xiao Tao is a genius of our Shrek Academy. Lin Songxing sighed. The appearance of a soul contract master wasn't approved by all the elders in the Sea God's Pavilion. Some felt that it was good, while others felt that it wasn't good. Although he agreed, there were also voices of opposition. Xiaozhe, do you have any other way to solve Xiao Dao's problem? It's not a long-term solution to keep suppressing her. Lin Songxing shook his head. The white-robed elder also sighed. How could he not know this logic? Let Xiaodao choose? Lin Songxing said. The white-robed elder nodded slightly. At this moment, the girl let out a few soft moans and slowly opened her eyes. She looked around and said in a low voice, Elder Lin, did I lose control again? Elder Lin nodded and told her what happened just now. What do you think? Elder Lin looked at her. You must have heard of this person. His origin is mysterious and his strength is profound. He also agreed to our suggestion to become a teacher of the Shrek Academy and spread the word about soul contract masters. He might also have a powerful ice-type martial soul, which will be of great help to you. Hearing this, Ma Xiaotao laughed and said, Elder Lin, didn't he choose the students himself? It doesn't seem to be a question of whether I'm willing or not. It's whether he's willing to be a teacher or not. However, it does sound fun. A ranked 20 soul master is going to be my teacher. How exciting. Ma Xiaotao stood up and dried her clothes. That seems to be the case. Lin Songxing was stunned. Xiaodao, you should think about it more. The white-robed elder said. From what he heard, Ma Xiaodao was clearly very interested in this soul contract master. Teacher, leave this matter to me. Ma Xiaotao thought for a moment. He helped me once, which can be considered as saving half of my life. I'll repay my kindness. As for becoming a teacher, don't trouble yourself. Helping me suppress it once should consume a lot of energy. If we become his student with the goal of letting him suppress the evil fire in my body, it's too much of a goal. If I were him, I would definitely be unhappy. I definitely wouldn't agree to such a big trouble. Xiaodao, you've become more sensible. Lin Songxing was stunned and said with a smile, even if you can't become his student, you can become his partner. Your aptitude is unique in our academy. There are only 2 or 3 people who can compare to you. If you chase after him, it should be very easy. With such an ice-type martial soul as your partner, your problem will be cured. The white-robed elder frowned, but he felt that it wasn't the case. That soul contract master seemed powerful, but how dangerous was he? If there was a day when that soul contract beast became stronger and wasn't restrained by humans, wouldn't it be raising a tiger and inviting calamity? However, this still depended on Xiaodao's own choice. Ma Xiaotao blushed and snorted. I don't want to become someone's partner because of my martial soul. Chase after him? Ma Xiaodao, will definitely not do such a thing. This person is very handsome, the kind that is unique in the world. There's no one like him. I'll think about it. End of this chapter. Chapter 11:13. When Wang Feng arrived at the new assessment area, it had already begun. The enormous plaza was divided into dozens of areas. Every area had a teacher in charge of the assessment. The competition had already begun. Wang Feng only needed to watch for a while before he found Hui Yuhao and the others. After watching for a while, Wang Feng lost interest. Hui Yuhao, Wang Dong, and Xiao Xiao. Not many people could compare to the combined strength of the 3 of them. Although Hui Yuhao wasn't very strong, he had 2 soul skills. Coupled with his soul-bound beast, he had an extra soul skill. Although it was only around rank 10, he wasn't inferior to a rank 20 soul master. From this, one could see the strength of a soul charmer, although there was a certain period of cultivation. However, it was an existence that could easily crush those of the same level. With an additional soul beast, even if it was an extremely weak silver-patterned silkworm, it would still have an additional soul skill. In a battle, the significance of having an extra soul skill was self-evident. Therefore, why were soul charmers able to change the situation of the world? Those with foresight could easily see through this. During the following few days of battles, Wang Feng occasionally watched. If it weren't for the fact that he had a special relationship with these 2 children, Wang Feng wouldn't have been interested in watching a battle between children. Something worth mentioning was that Wang Feng could faintly feel that Wang Dong and Hui Yuhao's martial souls were somewhat compatible. Logically speaking, the attribute difference between their martial souls was very large. It was very strange for their compatibility to be so high. Therefore, when the 2 of them found Wang Feng, he was extremely astonished. According to the Federation's research on martial soul fusion over the past few years, Martial soul fusion can be divided into three types. Wang Feng slowly explained the information he had learned about the Federation's research on martial soul fusion. The first type is compatibility in terms of attribute, while the second type is compatibility in terms of type. At the same time, the compatibility has to be at least 50% before a martial soul fusion can be carried out. The last type is an acquired martial soul fusion. It refers to the resonance between two people's martial souls after a long period of interaction and companionship. This research was the result of the Federation's research over the past few years. It was obtained from the experiments of many soul masters. The first two types were innate martial soul compatibility, which was usually determined at birth. The second type was an acquired martial soul compatibility, which required an extremely long period of time to nurture. Therefore, in theory, any martial soul could fuse with another martial soul. However, it was too difficult to achieve an acquired martial soul fusion. Not only did they need to spend a long time with each other, they also needed to resonate with their own emotions. This required their own comprehension. It was hard to find two people who could do this. Most of the people who could do it were those who had been together for decades and had gone through trials and tribulations, yet they were still able to maintain their original feelings for each other. The two of you have only known each other for 3 months. Your martial souls are not compatible. Wang Feng pondered for a long time. He suddenly recalled the gray light that had flown into Hua Yuhao's body that day. The radiant butterfly goddess represented the power of the holy element of light. It had nothing to do with his spiritual spirit eyes. It couldn't be said to be compatible, but it also couldn't be said to be incompatible. In terms of species, they were polar opposites. One was a top-grade butterfly-type beast martial spirit, while the other was a body martial spirit. If it was a plant-type martial soul, it would have a certain degree of compatibility with the radiant butterfly goddess. We don't know either. When we were fighting against a pair of siblings, they used a martial soul fusion skill. We were curious and wanted to give it a try. I think we succeeded, Hui Yuhao said awkwardly. The Federation's research on martial soul fusion was relatively thorough, and the classification was reasonable. This martial soul fusion skill was a secret 10,000 years ago, but it couldn't be considered a secret now. If it existed, it existed. If it didn't, it didn't. Although it was only a strand of remnant soul, it surpassed the spiritual power of a soul master in this world. It should be similar to the divine sense of a divine king. Wang Feng pondered. It was possible that this strand of divine sense had caused their martial soul fusion. If that was the case, then Wang Dong's sea of consciousness should have a similar level of divine sense. In that case, it could only be Tang San's. Wang Dong, come here. Wang Feng glanced at Wang Dong. Wang Dong made an O sound and walked in front of Wang Feng. A bright light flashed through Wang Feng's eyes. His spiritual power condensed and entered Wang Dong's sea of consciousness. In an instant, an enormous pressure was transmitted from Wang Dong's sea of consciousness. After entering Wang Dong's sea of consciousness, Wang Feng saw a bluish-gold light floating. It's indeed a strand of divine sense left behind by Little 3, but this strand of divine sense is clearly separated from Little 3. This means that the God Realm has really lost contact with the Douluo continent. Otherwise, this strand of divine sense wouldn't be doing nothing. Wang Fengxin thought to himself. These two strands of divine sense, which were of similar quality, were extremely likely to cause a martial soul fusion to mutate. He pondered for a moment. The appearance of the evil soul beast had allowed Wang Fengxin to confirm that the Douluo continent had lost contact with the God Realm. Wang Feng was even 100% sure that there were powers from other worlds invading this continent. It was just that the Federation hadn't announced this matter. After all, the Federation wouldn't announce this matter until it reached a certain level. It's fine. Wang Feng retracted his spiritual power and said calmly, since it's a martial soul fusion, the two of you should train more. It's fate that the two of you can perform a martial soul fusion in the Netherworld continent. Wang Dong curled his lips. Hui Yuhao scratched his head. But I feel weird hugging a guy and fusing with him. Hearing this, Wang Dong was immediately enraged. Do you think I want to hug you? Your entire body stinks. Aren't all boys like this? Hui Yuhao said awkwardly. If you train regularly, you'll definitely smell like sweat. Speaking of which, Wang Dong, your body doesn't smell like sweat. On the contrary, it smells good, don't tell me you. With that, Hui Yuhao suddenly paused. Wang Dong's heart skipped a beat. Don't tell me, he saw through it? Don't tell me you sprayed perfume? Hui Yuhao couldn't help but laugh. Wang Dong, you're a man. Why do you spray perfume? I was wondering why your bed smells so good. Wang Dong was speechless. Wang Feng was also speechless. Hui Yuhao was really slow. Wang Dong heaved a sigh of relief, but was also a little embarrassed. It's none of your business. Doesn't your teacher smell good too? That's different. Hui Yuhao shook his head. My teacher smells like nature. Your body smells like a girl's. Wang Dong stomped on Hui Yuhao's foot and left. Hui Yuhao felt a heart-wrenching pain from his foot. He couldn't help but hug his foot and jump around. Teacher, why did he get angry for no reason? Hui Yuhao complained. You compared him to a girl. How could he not get angry? Wang Feng said. If someone else compared you to a girl, would you get angry? Hui Yuhao suddenly understood. He asked, then what should I do? He's a boy. Wang Feng continued. Think about it. What kind of praise do boys like to receive? They like to be praised for being tall, strong, smart, and mighty. Hui Yuhao suddenly understood and nodded. I understand. I'll go and apologize. With that, Hui Yuhao quickly ran toward Wang Dong. End of chapter. Chapter 11:14. Boss, you're screwing him over. Long Xia was rolling around in the soul domain. If that little girl hears Hui Yuhao praising her like that, she'll be so angry that she'll explode like a volcano. What do you know? I'm creating an opportunity for them to flirt with each other and giving her some pointers. Wang Feng couldn't help but sneer. You've been single for so many years. Do you even know what love is? Long Xia was speechless. How heart-wrenching. Although Long Xia had lived for so many years, he really didn't know what love was. In the following few days, Wang Feng was a little lazy, so he secretly got the Sky Dream Ice Worm to teach Hui Yuhao martial soul fusion skills. After a few more days, the finals finally arrived. Since it was the finals, Zhou invited Wang Feng to watch. When they arrived at the finals, there were a few more people besides the judges. That's the Martial Soul Department's Outer Courtyard's teaching director, Du Weiluan. Zhou introduced him. The other old man is our Martial Soul Department's dean, Yin Xiaozhe. There's also a tall and sturdy old man, the Soul Tool Department's vice dean. His name is Duo, and he's also my lover's boss. The Shrek Academy had 2 deans in charge of the inner courtyard. The 2 vice deans were in charge of the outer courtyard. Both of them were top-notch experts, and were existences at the level of title Dalu. Wang Feng found the Martial Soul Department's dean somewhat familiar. Wasn't he the white-clothed old man he'd met 2 days ago? How could a mere freshman exam attract so many deans? Wang Feng asked curiously. Normally, the deans wouldn't come to watch the freshman exam. Zhou explained. Although the aptitudes of this batch of freshmen are generally very high, they're still very young. There are quite a few soul elders before the age of 12. However, it's mainly because of you. After the freshman exam, they'll usually go to different departments. Simply put, they'll snatch people away. However, because of the Sea God's Pavilion, they've already agreed to your request. You're the one who chose these students first. The deans of these 2 departments don't think highly of soul contract masters and feel that it's a crooked path. Naturally, they'll be more concerned about it. Hui Yuhao's soul power rank is relatively low, but he has a rare body and spiritual type martial soul, so the Martial Soul Department definitely won't let him go. However, the Soul Tool Department definitely won't let him go. This disciple of mine is quite popular. Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh. Aren't you worried that Hui Yuhao's upper limit might be because there are so few spiritual type soul beasts? Zhou shook her head. It's not that they don't exist. Only soul beasts with true ultimate attributes are the rarest. The spirit element was rare. Moreover, Qi was talented and hardworking. it won't be difficult for the Academy to find a spiritual-type soul beast for him. At this moment, as the two of them conversed, in the battle zone, the two teams also walked up. Wang Feng was a little familiar with Hui Yuhao's opponent. It was the inherited martial soul of Dai Mubai's family, the White Tiger, as well as Zhu Zhuqing's family's inherited martial soul, the Netherworld Civet. The other person had a rare ice-type martial soul, the Cold Capybara. White Tiger, Netherworld Civet, Cold Capybara. Isn't this Shui Yu-er's martial spirit? Wang Fengxin said. After Shui Yu-er and Dai Mubai got together, they did leave behind descendants, but they obviously didn't leave the family. Afterwards, the Dai and Zhu families continued to work closely together. The two of them had an innate martial soul fusion skill that was highly compatible with each other. Therefore, the two families had always been working together. Now, they were one of the strongest families in the Star Luo government. With an innate martial soul fusion skill, the two families had the confidence to challenge each other. As long as their martial souls didn't disappear and they didn't act recklessly, it would be very difficult for them to decline. However, many powerful families had appeared in the Star Luo government over the years. There are still many families that could compare to the Dai and Zhu families. His aptitude is much better than Dai Mubai's when he was young. Dai Huabin, a 12-year-old soul elder. Wang Feng swept his gaze over them. Back then, Dai Mubai's talent had been outstanding, and he'd only reached rank 30 at the age of 15. However, the aptitudes of people nowadays were generally better than 10,000 years ago. Speaking of which, the Dark Moon elf martial soul of the Zhu clan's ancestor, Zhu Zhuqing, has never appeared in the Zhu clan. Zhou sighed. Unknowingly, it became a legendary martial soul. Later generations said that this might be related to Wang Feng. There's also the Nine Treasures Glazed Pagoda of the Nine Treasures Glazed sect. Are there any disciples from the Nine Treasures Glazed sect in this batch? Wang Feng asked. Of course there are. She's very talented and is a soul elder. Her name is Ning Tian, and she's the descendant of the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect's sect master, Ning Fengxi. Rumor has it that she'll awaken to become the Nine Treasures Glazed Pagoda. Zhou smiled. Over the years, the Nine Treasures Glazed Pagoda martial souls have appeared in the Nine Treasures Glazed Pagoda, but they haven't passed it down. However, their sect should have a method to evolve a martial soul into the Nine Treasures Glazed Pagoda. It's just that it's not that easy to achieve. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Back then, Ning Rongrong had eaten the beautiful silk tulip that he'd given her. After that, he hadn't gone to the God realm directly with Ning Rongrong. He'd even spent some time in the mortal world, so he might have left behind a pure-blooded descendant. He might have been brought to the God realm by Ning Rongrong after he died. After all, Ning Rongrong had inherited the title of a rank 1 god. At this moment, a furious roar sounded from a stage. A huge, light purple tiger that was more than 2 meters tall appeared on the stage. It's the Netherworld White Tiger, a fusion skill. Zhou Yi's tone was a little strange. As expected, the fusion skill of these two families has been inherited by this junior. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been sent to the academy. Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong might not be a match for him, even though they can fuse their martial souls. She was the teacher of Hui Yuhao's class, so she was naturally more aware of his situation. Wang Feng wasn't worried. What he was worried about was that they wouldn't be able to withstand the power of the collision between the two martial soul fusion skills. As he thought until here, Wang Feng released his soul ring. He wanted to release Long Xie to prevent any accidents. The strength of a fusion skill was related to the level of one's soul power, as well as the strength of the fusion skill itself. At this moment, Xiao Xiao was very quick-witted. She took out her light green flute and started playing a special song. The gigantic white tiger was startled by the sound of the flute. At this moment, Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong immediately used their fusion skill. Wang Feng knew that their martial soul fusion skill originated from the influence of their two divine senses. Its power was much stronger than a pure fusion skill. This kind of divine sense was the divine sense of an expert that surpassed the god rank. Naturally, it was extraordinary. The beautiful, radiant butterfly goddess attached itself to Wang Dong's body and turned into a huge, dazzling golden projection. Hui Yuhao's spirit eyes also revealed a projection. It turned into a dazzling golden pupil that emitted an intense ray of light. Then, it landed on the radiant butterfly goddess and exploded with a dazzling light. It formed a golden path that rushed towards the netherworld white tiger. At the same time, the netherworld white tiger spat out a purple pillar of energy. Terrifying energy undulations came from the stage. Zhou Yi's expression changed. She could clearly feel these soul power undulations. However, no one would have thought that a mere freshman assessment would produce soul power undulations of this level. A fusion skill of a rank 30 soul elder was something that even a rank 40 soul master wouldn't be able to withstand. Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong were the same. End of chapter. Chapter 11:15. Long Xie, go and swallow it. Wang Feng shouted coldly. Fortunately, he was prepared. Long Xie revealed his soul rings and turned into a streak of yellow light. He was the first to appear on the stage. He was clearly faster than the other figure. Long Xie was almost 9 meters tall. He had cultivated for more than 8,000 years now. It could be said that compared to 3 months ago, his body shape was completely different. The most obvious change was that a pair of faint red wings had grown out of his back. However, they were still small and not fully formed. Only when he reached 10,000 years would his wings undergo huge changes. Long Xie, who was the size of small building, looked extremely terrifying. He landed on the stage. Looking at the two energies colliding, it suddenly opened its huge mouth, and the earthy yellow light was like a vortex. A yellow whirlpool of energy appeared in his mouth, and he swallowed the 2 streaks of energy. 2 different colored lights flashed in Long Xie's stomach. Following this, Long Xie spat them into the sky. The 2 streaks of energy formed a yellow beam of light that shot into the sky and let out a deafening boom. After the boom, the air was very quiet. Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong were already lying on the ground. Dai Huabin and the others were also lying on the ground. The person who had landed on the stage at the same time as Long Xie and was about to stop him was also stunned. Looking at this huge dragon, they were a little shocked for a moment. This crag dragon didn't have such an exaggerated size 3 months ago. How long had it been? Your soul beast, Zhou Yi was shocked. You've nurtured it to this level in 3 months? What's its cultivation now? How can a soul-carving beast increase its strength faster than us soul masters? She remembered that 3 months ago, this rock beast was only 2 meters tall, not even 3 meters tall. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, I've been feeding this stupid dragon those 5 colored stones every day. If it can't grow to this level in 3 months, even a soul sage would be injured if I were to take those 2 martial soul fusion skills seriously. Zhou Yi was astonished. 3 months ago, this crag dragon couldn't even defeat a soul emperor. It was much weaker than her, a soul emperor. It had only been 3 months. This crag dragon was probably much weaker than Zhang Lishuan. Mine is a little special. Wang foam counted. Normally, normal soul-bonded beasts won't improve so quickly. Zhou Yi remained silent. The weakest aspect of soul beasts compared to humans was that their cultivation speed was extremely slow. Once it became a human's soul-bonded beast, how much would its cultivation speed increase? Even if it wasn't as fast as Wang Feng's, it was definitely much faster than the original, right? Zhou Yi increasingly felt that this soul contract master was too mysterious. He hadn't seen Hui Yuhao's silver-patterned silkworm often, so he wasn't sure how much it had improved. But from the looks of it, after becoming a soul-bound beast of soul master, its cultivation speed would be much faster than that of a normal soul beast. Long Xie had used his soul skill to devour the 2 martial soul fusion skills before spitting them out. His soul skill couldn't truly devour an enemy's attack. It was a kind of devouring and storing, and then it had to be released. Otherwise, one would also be injured. After that, the evil dragon flew towards Wang Feng and entered his soul ring. For a moment, there was silence. Cough, cough. At this moment, Douluo coughed a few times and said, "Martial soul fusion skills are too strong for you guys to control. In the future, martial soul fusion skills will be prohibited in the freshman assessment. However, I have to say that this batch of freshmen is extremely outstanding. This is the first time I've seen 12-year-old freshmen use a martial soul fusion skill in the freshman assessment, and 2 of them at that." As the teaching director, he'd been stunned for a moment. He hadn't expected such a situation to occur, so he'd been a bit slower. However, it also seemed like someone had acted in time to stop it. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. "Director, what's the result?" Xiao Xiao giggled and said, "We won, right? Take a look at the traces left behind by Hui Hao and Wang Dong's martial soul fusion skill on the ground. This trace hasn't completely disappeared yet. It was only an energy attack just now. This martial soul fusion skill has 2 uses." A long, golden trace was left on the ground. It resembled a golden path. Clearly, its effects hadn't completely disappeared. Douluo stared at it for a while, then nodded slightly. There were strong and weak martial soul fusion skills. Although the netherworld white tiger was an ancient inheritance, it was still very powerful. Hui Hao and Wang Dong's martial soul fusion skill was even stronger. Seeing this, Hui Hao and Wang Dong forced themselves to stand up and smile. With that, the finals of the freshman assessment came to an end. "All right, children, gather up." At this moment, Yin Xiaozhe walked out from the front and smiled. "Before tomorrow's class allocation and rewards are announced, I have something important to announce to all of you." Qian Duo also walked out from the side. Their gazes landed on the distant Wang Feng. They'd clearly noticed him long ago. This was especially true when Long Xie had flown out. Very quickly, the students who'd passed the freshman assessment gathered in the plaza. "Let me introduce myself first. I'm Yin Xiaozhe, the dean of Shrek's Martial Soul Academy. The person next to me is Qian Duo, the vice dean of the Soul Tool Department." Yin Xiaozhe looked at the children in front of him and said indifferently, "According to the situation, all of you who'd passed the assessment would have been assigned to one of our 2 departments. However, because of something that happened 3 months ago, our Shrek Academy gained a mysterious figure. He also gained a never-before-seen profession. A soul contract master. I'm sure all of you have heard of him, right? Just now, it was the soul contract master soul beast that made a move and stopped the martial soul fusion skills of the 2 finalists." After hearing Yin Xiaozhe's words, the children below nodded their heads. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. A brand new profession means a brand new challenge. Yin Xiaozhe's words were like a gentle breeze. He wasn't imposing, but rather amiable. "Therefore, none of you will be assigned to either of our departments. This soul contract master will choose a few of you to become soul contract masters. I'll say the ugly words first. This is a brand new cultivation system. Whether it's our Martial Soul Federation or the Sun Moon Empire, this profession has never appeared before. There would be great danger in this. Therefore, all of you have the right to refuse and choose our Martial Soul Department or the Soul Tool Department. We won't force you. Becoming a soul contract master means that you'll become partners with a soul beast. This is an extremely dangerous matter." Yin Xiaozhe's gaze swept across the crowd. "We can't predict what kind of danger will appear." After hearing Yin Xiaozhe's words, many children quietened down. Many of the children quietened down. At the age of 12, they already possessed a certain level of thinking and judgment. Once any danger appears, we won't be able to help you immediately. Therefore, please make your choice carefully." A look flashed across Qianduo's eyes. His voice was relatively louder. "If you're willing to become a soul contract master and accept this new challenge, you can take a step forward. If you're not willing, you can take a step back." In fact, his words were already quite serious. However, he wasn't wrong. It was just that by saying it now, it was obvious that he wanted these children to choose their departments. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. However, as soon as Yin Xiaozhe finished speaking, all of the students took a step forward. Seeing this scene, Yin Xiaojia and Duo looked at each other, and the corners of their mouths twitched. P.S. There are 2 more chapters. Chapter 11:16. The 2 of them had never expected that these little fellows would still make such a choice, even though they had already said so much. Aren't they afraid of death? Do they know how dangerous that soul beast is? Becoming partners with a soul beast is like asking a tiger for its skin. The 2 deans were speechless. Children these days were really too bold. As the deans of the Martial Soul Department and Soul Tool Department in the Shrek Academy, they weren't just thinking about the same thing as the elders in the Sea God's Pavilion. Now that soul tools were flourishing, the importance of soul engineers was self-evident. However, soul masters were still important. But no matter which path they chose, it wasn't as dangerous as becoming a soul contractor. The concept of hunting soul beasts and obtaining soul rings was deeply ingrained in the hearts of humans, and it had been settled on this continent for countless years. For example, the 8 great overlords of the extreme north had helped humans many times. However, both parties were still very wary of each other. They wouldn't barge in for no reason. It wasn't hard to imagine how deep this concept was. They knew how strong a soul contractor was. He wasn't even ranked 20, but he could fight Zhang Lishuan, who was a soul sage, with his own soul-bonded beast. This was partly because of how special this soul contractor was. However, there was no doubt about the strength of a soul contractor. But they were also much more dangerous than soul masters and soul engineers. How many battles had there been between soul beasts and humans? Not to mention world-class battles that involved the entire continent. There were countless beast hordes. Yin Xiaojia and Duo sighed. Although many elders in the Sea God's Pavilion thought highly of soul contractors, they weren't deans. However, as deans, they didn't think highly of him. If Elder Mu and Zi were in the pavilion, they probably wouldn't think so either. Duo walked forward and couldn't help but ask a little girl, "Child, can you tell me why you want to become a soul contractor?" A soul contractor is much more dangerous than a soul master. Aren't you afraid? The little girl thought for a moment and said, "Because of that big brother soul contractor." Duo was shocked. "Why? Actually, it doesn't matter if we become a soul contractor, but he's too good-looking." The little girl blushed and said, "Being his student should be a form of enjoyment." After hearing this, Duo and Yin Xiaojia were confused. The 2 of them had never imagined that this was the reason that drove them to take a step forward. Old. He, Xiao, who was in front, couldn't help but laugh. It's actually the same as what I thought." Wang Dong said disdainfully. "Raising a cute soul beast is the most important reason to become a soul charmer. Danger? I'm not afraid." When Wang Feng heard this, he couldn't help but think to himself, as expected of Xiao Wu's daughter. Little Wudong also has half a soul beast bloodline. She should be naturally close to soul beasts, right? However, when he heard that the reason why the child wanted to become a soul charmer was because he thought that he was too handsome, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. Wang Feng could only sigh. These children were too realistic. Don't tell me. I'm the only one who chose to become a soul contract master because of how powerful a soul contract master is? Hui Yuhao asked softly. That's right, there's only you. Wang Dong patted Hui Yuhao's shoulder. Hui Yuhao was speechless. What do these brats know? The Skydream Iceworm in his arms said, even those 2 titled don't know how powerful a soul contract master is before they truly understand it. Little rat, when you grow up and prove it to them, they'll know. A soul contract master isn't just a simple soul beast. Hui Yuhao nodded his head heavily. At this moment, Wang Feng walked forward and glanced at the 2 of them. Yin Xiaojia had met him before, but Duo hadn't. However, the 2 of them didn't say much. As deans, they naturally wouldn't say much about the Sea God's Pavilion's request. However, they still felt a little heartache when they saw so many good seedlings. What if something happened and they were crippled? Wang Feng looked at the bunch of children and laughed. I'm very comforted that all of you want to become a soul contract master because you're attracted to me. It's not because you truly want to become a soul contract master. It's because this is the truth. It's very good that you can speak the truth. Yin Xiaozhe and Qian Duoduo's lips twitched. This person is indeed a little shameless. Qian Duo glanced at Yin Xiaozhe. Speaking of which, shout out from your side, is also planning to become a student? Is that suitable? This Wang Feng possesses the power of ice. To a certain extent, he's indeed Xiao Tao's best partner. Furthermore, this is Xiao Tao's own choice. However, he might not choose Xiao Tao as a student. Yin Xiaozhe sighed. The two of them communicated with each other using their spiritual power. However, old Qian, I heard that Kaitu from your department is also going to become a student. Is that suitable? He's a rare genius from your soul tool department. I have no choice. Kaitu is Fan Yu's disciple. I have no right to ask. Qian Duo was also helpless. Our soul tool department has nothing to do with soul beasts. There's no need for this. The two of them looked at each other. At this moment, they heard Wang Feng speak again. Actually, these two deans are right. Soul contract masters are very dangerous. Interacting with soul beasts is a very dangerous thing. Therefore, I'll only choose 3 to 4 people. Wang Feng scanned a few of them. As the first batch of soul contract masters, they were also experimental subjects. Therefore, Wang Feng didn't want to cheat too many people. Other than Hui Yuhao, he also chose Wang Dong, and Xiao Xiao. Wang Feng thought about the rest of the children, but didn't consider them for the time being. He really knows how to choose. Du Weiluan's mouth twitched. He had chosen the champion team of this year's freshman assessment. Qian Duoduo's heart ached. Without mentioning the other two, Hui Yuhao was an excellent seedling for a soul engineer. Just his special spiritual power alone was extraordinary. The rest of the children will gather tomorrow and be assigned to their respective departments. Du Weiluan heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Wang Feng choose the 3 of them. Fortunately, he only chose 3. However, when he thought about the crag dragon that was close to 10,000 years old, he looked at the 3 children and wondered what changes they would undergo in the future. The children who weren't chosen weren't too disappointed. It was just like what they thought. There weren't many who were truly interested in soul contract masters. Most of them were attracted by Wang Feng's appearance. As the children dispersed, only the 3 of them were left. According to the Academy's rules, due to the uniqueness of soul renters and the fact that all of you are the champions of this examination, there are no exceptions. As the champions of this year's freshman assessment, the Academy will give you additional rights as core disciples. Du Weiluan looked at the 3 of them and said, apart from that, the Academy will reward you with some additional compensation. This will be your compensation for becoming a soul contract master. There's compensation? Hui Yuhao was stunned. Deans, why didn't you say that there was compensation? Xiao Xiao pursed her lips. You're obviously selfish. Yin Xiaozhe and Qian Duo laughed. They didn't mind Xiao Zhao's rebuttal. Although they didn't approve of soul contract masters, they were still magnanimous towards their students. Chapter 11:17. Go back and make your preparations. Wang Feng said, since you've become soul charters and are my students, you won't be able to follow the normal cultivation path for a long time. In 5 days, you'll follow me out of the academy. After hearing this, the few people behind him were stunned. How do you plan on nurturing them? Du Weiluan couldn't help but ask, what do you plan on doing outside the academy? The academy's cultivation environment is the best. Nonsense, of course we're going to find soul beasts. Wang Feng furrowed his brows. How can soul charters be called soul charters if they don't have soul beasts? But isn't this too fast? Du Weiluan furrowed his brows. They're still far from breaking through. 2 of them have only just reached rank 20, while the other is far from it. They don't even need soul rings. Wang Feng laughed. They were still looking at soul charters from a soul master's point of view. You want them to nurture soul beasts in advance. As the dean, Yin Xiaozhe was able to see through Wang Feng's intentions. Naturally, Wang Feng slowly said. This dean's reaction was quite fast. Just you? Qian Duo asked. Do you need the academy to send 2 more teachers to guard against danger? Danger? Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh. We're going to kill soul beasts, so it's not that dangerous. We're going to find soul beasts to partner with. Deans, after I bring them back, I'll give you a lecture. I'll explain the basics of soul charters in detail. If you have any prejudices against soul charters after listening to it, then I have nothing to say. Listen to a lecture? The two were startled. As deans, they were going to listen to a lecture? We'll definitely be there when the time comes. Yin Xiaozhe pondered for a moment, then said indifferently, I'd like to hear what you have to say. I'd like to see if there's anything special about soul charters. Interesting. Duo laughed. Then we'll talk about it after you bring them back. Wang Feng smiled, but didn't say anything. Teacher, isn't it a little too fast to go find soul beasts in 5 days? Xiao Xiao suddenly felt somewhat excited. Her little face flushed red. Yes, we're only rank 21. Wang Dong was somewhat doubtful. It's not fast. Wang Feng said, you'll reach rank 30 in at most a year. According to your strength, you'll need a 10,000-year soul beast to reach rank 30, but 10,000-year soul beasts already have intelligence. It'll be very difficult to form a contract with a wild 10,000-year soul beast. Therefore, it's best to target a 1,000-year soul beast. At the same time, you have to develop a relationship with these soul beasts before you can sign a contract with them. This requires a process. So, we have to look for them in advance. It was still difficult to turn these children who were already soul masters into soul contracted masters. Comparatively speaking, Hui Yuhao was much better off. It was better to start as a soul renderer from the very beginning. Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao nodded, as if they understood something. Hui Yuhao understood this very well. His relationship with the silver-patterned silkworm was very close now. The silver-patterned silkworm's cultivation speed was very fast, especially when he saw with his own eyes that his soul ring had changed from a 10-year soul ring to a 100-year soul ring, and then slowly to a 1,000-year soul ring. That sense of accomplishment was something that simply obtaining a soul ring couldn't compare to. He could clearly feel that he and the soul-carving beast had become stronger, and he was very motivated. Compared to simply increasing one's soul power rank, the feeling of satisfaction was much greater. The three of them returned to make their preparations. According to Wang Feng's estimates, they would only need 1 to 2 months at most to find a soul beast. They still had a lot of time to develop a relationship with the soul beasts, cultivate, and do other things. The school year was still very long. Wang Feng planned to help these guys find their first soul beast. When they returned to the academy, he would explain in detail what a soul contracted master was. After that, he would punch a card in the Sea God's Pavilion and leave his life's soul contract behind. After that, he would be able to officially leave. As for where he would go next, it would depend on the system's location. The next day, Zhou Yi, a man, and a youth found Wang Feng. Senior, this is my lover, Fan Yu. He's also his disciple, Hikaitu. Zhou Yi introduced them. Fan Yu was a rather scholarly man. His soul power rank was very high, and he was an 8-ring soul Dalu. His disciple, Hikaitu, had a rarely seen food-type martial soul. Wang Feng swept his gaze over them and thought to himself, twin martial souls? Another twin martial soul? Wang Feng was stunned. The Douluo continent had indeed changed after 10,000 years. He had already met a few twin martial souls. However, when he thought about the changes that the 5 energy tides had brought to humans, Wang Feng wasn't too surprised. Hikaitu looked to be 2 or 3 years older than Hui Yuhao. His body was more robust, and he was very tall and sturdy. His muscles were bulging, and he didn't look like a food-type soul master. Instead, he looked more like a battle soul master. Hello, teacher. Hikaitu smiled foolishly. Your soul tool department is also so interested in soul contracted masters. Wang Feng smiled. Don't tell me you want to place those soul tools on soul beasts. Do you want to increase their fighting strength? Can you also reduce the danger that those soul tools bring? Fan Yu was stunned when he heard this. Your knowledge is extraordinary. Fan Yu was silent for a moment, and a smile appeared on his face. I didn't expect you to see through my intentions so quickly. That's right, that's what I was thinking. After I found out about your battle with soul-contracted masters, I decided to fight them. I think this is an excellent way to fight them. Any soul tool will put a huge burden on the body of Soul Master. Furthermore, the Soul Engineer will be in a weakened state after using it. If we can have a Soul Beast as a companion, it will greatly increase our survivability. At the same time, the strong physique of Soul Beasts will allow them to withstand soul tools that far exceed what a Soul Master can withstand. We don't need to withstand them. We just need to control them. It had to be said that Fan Yu's words were enough to prove that he was an outstanding Soul Engineer. He was forward-looking. The fact that he could think of combining the two proved that he had foresight. This was also the reason why Wang Feng agreed. In the future, soul tools were an obstacle that couldn't be avoided. It was very normal. As humans developed, soul tool technology would become even more advanced. When the time came, soul contracted masters wouldn't be able to avoid soul tool technology. The only way was to find a way to combine them. Therefore, Wang Feng agreed to Zhou Yi's request. This was because his goal was similar to Fan Yu's, but he was looking further than Fan Yu. Fan Yu only saw the effects of soul contracted masters and soul tools when combined. Wang Feng was thinking about the combination of soul contracted masters and soul tool technology when soul tool technology was popular in the future. Oh yes, since you're here, let me see. Wang Feng suddenly said, let me see how strong these soul tools that you've researched are. Fan Yu was stunned when he heard this, but he didn't refuse. Kaitu, let me see. Fan Yu wanted Kaitu to demonstrate first. Kaitu nodded. At this moment, a clear voice suddenly sounded. Why don't you let me try it for you? P.S. There will be 7 to 8 updates tomorrow. Chapter 11:18. Why don't I try it for you? It was a girl's voice. The few of them turned around and saw a woman who looked like a ball of flames walking over with a faint smile on her face. Xiao Dao. Fan Yu was stunned as he looked at the girl. Why are you here? Ma Xiao Dao was a famous genius in the academy. Although she wasn't from the Soul Tool department, they naturally knew about her. Teacher Fan Yu. Ma Xiao Dao walked over and glanced at the two of them. Kaitu, why don't you let your senior sister see your Soul Tool equipment? Kaitu glanced at Ma Xiao Dao and laughed embarrassedly. She was the tyrant of the martial soul department. Only Zhang Lishuan could suppress her in the inner courtyard. No one else, male or female, could beat her. Due to her martial soul, she had a fiery temper. Of course, according to her, she was a gentle girl. She couldn't help but have a fiery temper. Xiao Dao, why are you blindly interfering? Fan Yu couldn't help but ask. Is this senior the one who wants to see a soul tool? What does it have to do with you? Why did this energetic guy come here? Fan Yu and Zhou Yi were speechless. Teacher Fan Yu, he's younger than you. How can you call him senior? Ma Xiaodao didn't look at Wang Feng. Instead, she giggled as she asked this question. Those who specialize in their own field are seniors. Fan Yu glared at Ma Xiaodao. Being a soul charmer is a new and rare profession with enormous potential. It's natural for someone who can create such a cultivation method to be called a senior. You, on the other hand, shouldn't blindly interfere. Hurry up and go back. Ma Xiaodao listened as she walked in front of the three of them. However, she didn't go back. Instead, she suddenly looked at Wang Feng and said, I'll repay him for his kindness. He only saved me once, and I, Ma Xiaodao, have nothing to repay him with. I can only help him try it out. After all, this soul tool is extremely dangerous. I've seen it before, and it can't hurt me. When Fan Yu heard this, he thought that this girl wanted to repay him with her body. He was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. However, he understood the cause and effect. He saved Ma Xiaodao. According to what he knew, although Ma Xiaodao was exceptionally talented, her body was corroded by the evil fire. She would often lose consciousness and attack anyone. Although they had been suppressed by the teachers of the inner yard over the past few years, they had often injured others. Otherwise, Ma Xiaodao's name wouldn't be so resounding in the inner court. To be able to save her, this meant that the other party had some kind of miraculous technique. Wang Feng was not surprised. He just didn't expect that the other party would come now. Your name is Wang Feng, right? Then I'll call you Senior Wang. Ma Xiaodao's beautiful eyes turned and landed on Wang Feng. Senior, what do you think? You've helped me a lot, so you should at least let me repay you a little, right? She looked at Wang Feng, her heart thumping. Elder Lin didn't lie to her. This man was too handsome. Ma Xiaodao thought to herself. If you want to return it, then return it, Wang Feng said. I can see more clearly as a bystander. Hearing this, Ma Xiaotao was overjoyed, but she maintained her composure and walked to the side, smiling faintly. Hikaitu, use your strongest soul tool and give it a try. Speaking of which, it's been a long time since I've dismantled the soul tool department's messy steel with my bare hands. My hands are still itchy. As Ma Xiaotao spoke, she crossed her hands and clenched them, causing a series of crackling sounds to ring out. Originally, she wanted to turn her head and display her fighting spirit like she usually did. However, she seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly let go of her hands, calmly looking at Hikaitu. Senior sister, you're too violent. Hikaitu laughed bitterly. Violent? Ma Xiaodao raised her pale, red eyebrows. Hikaitu, don't slander me. Your sister Xiaodao is very gentle. If you spout any more nonsense, I'll tear all of your soul tools to pieces. Hikaitu, big sister, who in the academy doesn't know about your violence? Hikaitu ridiculed her inwardly. Fan Yu and Zhou, you seem to have understood something. Didn't you say that this senior has a wife? Fan Yu lowered his voice. Why does it seem like Xiaodao wants to chase after him? He did. He even said that he has several different temperaments, but it seems like a lot of people don't believe him. Zhou thought for a moment. They think that no one is worthy of him. However, this senior doesn't seem like a playboy. He's been in the academy for a few months, but I haven't seen him seduce any female students. Instead, he's been quietly cultivating here. Perhaps it's because of this that he's even more attractive. Fan Yu shook his head. Just like when I was young. Zhou, he looked at him. Cough, cough. No, nothing. Wang Feng had been paying attention to the battlefield. Yu Hao himself was rather interested in soul tools. In fact, no matter what world one was in, one couldn't avoid coming into contact with all kinds of technology. For example, in the Douluo world, the title Douluo world was the limit. Since people couldn't break through this limit, they could only seek another path to become stronger. Therefore, the prevalence of soul tools and soul engineers was inevitable. Even if the Sun-Moon Empire hadn't clashed with the Federation, the Sun-Moon Empire wouldn't have existed. At most, the Federation would have developed soul tools in a few years. Another reason was that the emergence of this kind of technology would promote the advancement of society. Therefore, this was an inevitable development in a normal society. The Federation had already stepped over the feudal era of empires. Therefore, it had begun to develop soul tools in the face of the current Sun-Moon Empire. With the prevalence of soul tools, Wang Feng knew that soul beasts would face true extinction and slaughter in the future if soul charters didn't spread the word. Wang Feng was naturally a little interested in the current soul tools. This was because this was just an experiment. Ma Xiaodao was only the one being attacked. Hikaitu was the one attacking. In Wang Feng's eyes, the first to move was naturally Hikaitu. He had many pocket-like soul tools tied to his waist. With a light tap, countless soul tools flew out of his pockets. There were crisp mechanical sounds as pieces of strange soul tools flew from his arms to his shoulders, and then to his entire body. These soul tools didn't look very exquisite. Wang Feng could even clearly sense the simple internal structure of these soul tools with his spiritual senses. What was special was that these soul tools had special soul power undulations flowing within them. Every single piece of soul tool wasn't very beautiful when they were assembled. In his impression, they looked like the original Iron Man, which was covered in pure metal. However, there was only a simple mechanical structure inside. Senior Sister Xiaodao, be careful. Hikaitu shouted. 3 soul rings flickered on his body, and a smoke-like martial soul that was more than 10 centimeters long appeared in his hand. This martial soul is quite interesting. Wang Feng was astonished. 10,000 years later, in the Douluo continent, cigarettes were naturally developed. As a homebody who didn't smoke or drink in his previous life, he didn't have much interest in cigarettes. Chapter 11:19. After this cigarette appeared, Wang Feng could clearly feel soul power surging from Hiketu's body into the metal-like soul tools on his body. Following this, Wang Feng's eyes flashed. He seemed to see the soul power circuits in the soul tools passing through the formation arrays of the soul tools. Hiketu's immense soul power flowed back. After passing through the formation arrays, it seemed to be highly compressed. Finally, it gathered into a few small holes in the soul tools on his arm. Holes suddenly appeared on the back of Hiketu's hand. Pitch-black rays of light shot out from these small holes towards Ma Xiaodao. So if this is a soul tool, it's similar to the pistols and bombs in my previous life. Wang Fengxin thought to himself. They were both highly compressed energy and high-speed explosions. However, these were soul tools, and their methods are quite different. The strength was determined by the strength of one soul power. However, it was undeniable that this was a way to maximize the use of one soul power. Wang Feng muttered to himself. Soul skills were actually similar to soul tools in terms of attacking. Soul power flowed through the body in a special way before it was released. However, this was related to the soul master's physique. Soul tools were equivalent to replacing the soul master's body and using soul power. Even auxiliary type and healing type soul masters with weaker physiques could use soul tools to unleash great strength. This created a possibility for battle. Ma Xiaodao snorted as she saw the black lights coming towards her. She unleashed her fire phoenix martial soul, and a flaming barrier covered her body. Following this, she punched out. However, the purple flames were formed purely from soul power. Soul Emperors naturally weren't afraid of Ikeda's attack. As if she wanted to show off, Ma Xiaodao suddenly leaped high into the air. A pair of purple flame wings sprouted from her back, making her look majestic. Her enchanting and graceful figure was exceptionally attractive amidst the dancing flames. Rumble. The purple flames hit several pitch-black rays of light, causing a violent explosion. Amidst this explosion, countless shockwaves were swept up. Ma Xiaotao's clothes fluttered in the air. Her fire-colored hair swayed in the wind, and she looked very charming. Not bad. You've improved. After the explosion, Ma Xiaotao landed on the ground with a faint smile on her face. Hikaitu, the power of your moves is comparable to that of a rank 40 soul master. Hikaitu looked at his smoking arm and revealed a silly smile. Sister Xiaodao, this is just the beginning. As soon as he finished speaking, his body trembled. All of a sudden, the black metallic skin on his body began to wriggle. Tiny metal pipes suddenly appeared on his shoulders, back, and hands. It looked like a gun muzzle. Come. Ma Xiaodao waved her hand at Hikaitu. I'll use my rank 40 soul power to test your soul tools. Don't hold back, attack with all you've got. Sister Xiaodao, you said it yourself. Hikaitu placed a cigarette in his mouth. After that, Hikaitu's body shook once more, and countless metal pipes emerged from his body. Wang Feng scanned the area. There were at least 100 of them. Open fire. Hikaitu shouted. His soul power surged into his soul tool. Instantly, the metal pipes lit up one after another, as if they wanted to split his body apart. Countless rays of light shot out from the metal pipes. They were like lasers as they blasted towards Ma Xiaodao. What strong power! Wang Fengxin said. These soul tools were indeed strong. They were like an ordinary person who had obtained a gun. The intensity of the battle had increased by several times. Hikaitu had used up all of his soul power. The power that was unleashed was simply terrifying. In just an instant, Ma Xiaodao was enveloped by the boundless light. Rumbling sounds that shook the ground continuously rang out. Will that child be all right? Zhou Yi frowned as she watched. Even a rank 40 soul master would find it difficult to withstand such soul power undulations. Don't worry, Xiaodao is a soul emperor. She won't be hurt so easily, Fan Yu said calmly. Even 3 Hikaitu won't be able to hurt her. unless she's stupid enough to only use rank 40 soul power. Zhou nodded. However, just as Fan Yu finished speaking, in an instant, a figure was suddenly blasted out from the ceaseless explosions of flames. Fan Yu was stunned when he saw this. This girl, she can't really only use rank 40 soul power, right? Ma Xiaodao was like a meteorite as she flew towards Wang Feng in the distance. Wang Feng frowned slightly. He raised his hand slightly and waved it. His soul force flowed out and formed a gentle hurricane that caught Ma Xiaodao as she flew backwards. Ma Xiaodao seemed to have collided with a gentle wall of wind. She used it to spin 710 degrees in the air before landing on the ground. She was less than a meter away from Wang Feng. As if she was afraid of being seen through, Ma Xiaodao shouted the moment she landed on the ground. Hikaitu, you really didn't hold back at all. However, your sister Xiaodao kept her word and only used rank 40 soul power. Not bad, you've improved a lot. After she finished speaking, Ma Xiaodao exhaled a long breath. Wang Feng seemed to understand something. He couldn't help but ask, how are you? Hey, I'm fine. When Ma Xiaodao heard his voice, she immediately smiled confidently and replied, he's a rank 30 soul elder. What harm can he do to me? Just now, I was sent flying by the impact of the energy explosion. Wang Feng nodded. You weren't just fine, you were forcefully flying towards me. Ma Xiaodao felt that her explanation was a little redundant and suspicious. She couldn't help but blush slightly and didn't look at Wang Feng. Wang Feng didn't say anything. Instead, he looked towards Hikaitu. At this moment, Hikaitu's entire body was emitting a faint layer of smoke, as if he'd been overloaded. His face was also slightly pale. It was obvious that he consumed quite a bit of energy. Senior, look. Hikaitu's body is at its weakest right now. Fan Yu hurriedly walked over and poured his gentle soul power into Hikaitu's body, causing him to slowly recover. Unleashing such a powerful attack is even more taxing on a soul master's body than on his soul power. In reality, soul tools were also balanced. To be able to make a food-type soul master over rank 30 unleash the attack power of a rank 40 soul master, crossing so many ranks. This was something that soul skills alone couldn't achieve. This was also the strength of soul tools. However, the burden on one's body was extremely great. If it was a battle soul master with a beast martial soul, it would be slightly better. However, if it was an auxiliary type soul master, the burden on one's body would be too great. This was also the difficulty of soul engineers. After Fan Yu learned about soul contract masters, he knew that if a soul contract master and a soul tool were combined, a soul beast-strong body would be able to unleash the power of a soul tool better. On the other hand, a soul master only needed to assist. Chapter 1120. These soul tools are indeed quite powerful. Wang Feng nodded slightly. There are a few types of soul tools, Fan Yu said with a smile. Fan Yu smiled and said, the strongest stationary soul tool is even more powerful than the close combat or long-range soul tools attached to a person's body. Oh, Wang Feng was astonished. Really? I want to see it for myself. Fan Yu was stunned when he heard this. These stationary soul tools are very powerful. It's very easy to get hurt with Xiaodao's abilities. I'm afraid she'll be hurt. Ma Xiaodao raised her eyebrows. I'm not afraid. Let's try. Wang Feng waved his hand. There's no need. That kind of explosion can easily trigger the evil fire in your body. You shouldn't take too much. I'll try it myself. Ma Xiaodao opened her mouth, but didn't refute him. You must be worried about me, right? Ma Xiaodao was a little embarrassed, but she said seriously, Senior, you're underestimating me. Furthermore, I won't be hurt. This stationary soul tool is extremely powerful. I can still absorb the heat generated when it explodes. Teacher Fan doesn't know my abilities. That's why he thinks I'll be hurt. In fact, I won't be hurt. You, on the other hand, have never touched a stationary soul tool before. You'll be hurt the first time. Therefore, let me do it. Fan Yu and Zhou Yi were speechless. If you could absorb it, why would you be thrown out? Fan Yu couldn't help but glare at Ma Xiaodao. Ma Xiaodao was speechless. She blushed and glared at Fan Yu, unwilling to be outdone. Zhou, he tugged at Fan Yu's sleeve and whispered, "Seriously, why did you expose him so directly? Aren't you embarrassing her?" "What am I exposing? I'm just speaking the truth, Fan Yu was stunned. "Are you saying that Xiaotao did it on purpose? This girl is a little proactive." "Nonsense. After all, he saved her. How can she not be proactive?" Zhou, he was speechless. Clearly, she had already seen through the fact that Ma Xiaodao had been sent flying toward Wang Feng by the explosion. Clearly, she had done it on purpose. At this moment, Wang Feng was astonished. "When did I say I was going to face it personally?" The three of them were stunned when they heard this. Following this, a soul ring lit up on Wang Feng's body. Long Xie's enormous body emerged from the soul ring. Long Xie, test the strength of this stationary soul tool. Long Xie was speechless. Long Xie glared at Wang Feng. "Teacher Fan Yu, please." Wang Feng pointed at Long Xie, who was like a small mountain. "Just go all out and attack. His skin is thick, and he could take a beating." Fan Yu glanced at Wang Feng, and then at the stony dragon. He said, "Stationary soul tools are extremely accurate, and the inscriptions within them are very complex. They don't need to expend too much soul power when they're fired, but they do require a lot of spiritual power to control their accuracy. Otherwise, it's easy to deviate. While its power is high, its weakness is also very obvious. Its accuracy is not enough." "It's fine," said Wang Feng. "With my physique, you can't even think about it." Fan Yu glanced at Long Xie, coughed a few times, and nodded. The crag dragon was a defense-oriented soul beast, and stationary soul tools were also graded according to their strengths. Fan Yu wouldn't use a Class 6 or Class 7 stationary soul tool to test it out. Those types of soul tools were too expensive, and he wouldn't use them unless there were special circumstances. "Don't look at me with such a bitter expression." Wang Feng patted Long Xie's butt. "You're only one step away from becoming a 10,000-year soul beast. You need some strong external force to stimulate your body's potential. I can't be bothered to beat you up. This stationary soul tool's strength will cover your entire body. When that happens, you'll have to endure it, and your potential will be stimulated. You'll be able to become a 10,000-year soul beast even faster." Long Xie nodded and looked at Fan Yu. At this moment, Fan Yu took out a bunch of components from his storage-type soul tool and quickly assembled them on the ground. Stationary soul tools were similar to stationary missiles and cannons. A soul master didn't need to use his soul power to condense them. He only needed to load a specially made cannon, and the soul master could use his soul power to ignite them. Therefore, he needed some time to assemble them. "Is this your soul-bound beast?" It was Ma Xiaodao's first time seeing Long Xie. She was very curious. "Long Xie, that's his name," Wang Feng answered. And #hashtag at hashtag, and Ma Xiaodao blinked her beautiful eyes as she spoke to Long Xie in a friendly manner. Question mark. Wang Feng looked at her in surprise. "What are you talking about?" "The language of beasts." Ma Xiaodao was confused. "I've heard the masters of languages in the Federation say that soul beasts have their own unique language, and they have their own way of communicating. After so many years of research, I can roughly understand the basic language. I was just saying hello to you. Otherwise, soul beasts and humans can only communicate through spiritual voice transmissions. Only soul beasts that are close to 100,000 years can speak human language." Wang Feng was speechless. Ma Xiaotao still knew too little about soul charters. "I'm not good." Long Xie turned his head and spoke human language. "I'm about to be beaten up. Little girl, do you think I'm good?" Ma Xiaotao was shocked. "He can speak human language? Why is he so intelligent? Didn't Zhang Lishuan tell the inner courtyard students?" Wang Feng shook his head. "My soul-bound beast is a little intelligent. However, speaking human language is only a basic skill. As for the language of beasts, Long Xie, do you soul beasts have a language of beasts?" "Nonsense. Soul beasts are very complex, and their structures are very strange. How can we have a language?" Long Xie said disdainfully. "Even if we do, every race has their own way of communicating. Who knows what you were screaming about just now, little girl?" Ma Xiaotao's face turned red. That was too embarrassing. That might not be the case. Wang Feng said, language is a huge subject. What Ma Xiaotao said just now might be the language of a certain race of soul beasts. You just don't know it. I'm sorry, but Long Xie is no longer a soul beast. Long Xie curled his lips in disdain. It's fine. Ma Xiaotao smiled. She didn't feel embarrassed. Fan Yu spoke up at this time. It's ready. This is a Class 3 stationary explosive bullet. The explosion will cover a radius of 20 meters, and it has a burning effect. Can you withstand it? Long Xie opened his mouth, but before he could say anything, Wang Feng said, no problem. Give me a few more. Long Xie was speechless. Fan Yu was speechless. Fan Yu did not hesitate in the slightest. The instant Wang Feng landed, Fan Yu rushed forward. When Wang Feng landed on the ground, he looked at the stationary soul tool on the ground. In Wang Feng's eyes, this stationary soul tool looked like a missile launcher. There were many metal brackets on the ground, and there was a special chip in the base. The barrel was connected to many metal pipes that were used to drive soul power. Chapter 1121. The cannon's muzzle was black. It was less than a meter long. It looked like a large missile launcher. It looked very old. It was still quite different from the missile launchers that Wang Feng had in his previous life. Following this, Fan Yu took out a round, blackish-red cannon shell that was about the size of a palm. There were special patterns flowing on it. He could sense that the interior of the cannonball was made of a lot of special metals and materials, and it was sealed by a special magic formation inside. It was probably very expensive to make. In the next moment, Fan Yu placed the explosive bomb into his stationary soul tool with great familiarity. As Fan Yu injected his soul power into the cannon, it shone brightly. Several cannon shells were fired from the cannon's muzzle. A circle of dust was blown into the air. Roar! Long Xie let out a ferocious roar. His skin turned bright silver, and his defensive strength increased rapidly. He could sense how strong the attack was in that ball of scorching light. When the cannon shell landed on Long Xie's body, his entire body started to explode. Countless flames covered his bright silver armor. However, it didn't affect him at all. His skin wasn't damaged at all. Fan Yu was stunned. This stony dragon's defenses were too strong. It was important to know that even rank 50 or 60 soul masters wouldn't dare to take a Class 4 stationary cannon shell head-on. It was impossible for an ordinary crag dragon to have such a strong defense. Even a 10,000-year-old crag dragon would be severely injured at the very least. Fan Yu didn't hesitate. Following this, he fired several more stationary cannon shells. The violent explosions landed on different parts of Long Xie's body due to their different aim. They were like missiles that landed on a mountain. Along with the shaking of the ground began to sway. Fortunately, this plaza was big enough. Otherwise, Wang Feng's residence would have been razed to the ground. Wang Feng's eyes sparkled. He could sense that this stationary soul tool was extraordinary. Long Xie's soul force had been used to create a suit of armor, but it was quickly being blasted into pieces. Boss, this thing is a little strong. Long Xie couldn't help but say, do you want to help me block it? Wasn't it said that soul contractors had to go through thick and thin with other soul contractors and develop a tacit understanding between them? Hurry up, boss. This is the best time to train with me. Come and help me block it. Otherwise, if this goes on, I will definitely be blown apart by these explosions. Get lost. Wang Feng laughed and scolded. Can't you comprehend it yourself? Let's see if I can resist these stationary soul tools with my special soul skills. You're a soul-bonded beast now, not a soul beast. There's no need to wait for a soul skill to appear automatically after 10,000 years. You can comprehend it yourself. Your previous soul skills and abilities can be changed and used. With your intelligence, it won't be difficult. Long Xie fell silent upon hearing this. Amidst the countless explosions, the skin that had been blasted open by the high explosive shells began to turn red as it was destroyed. Immediately afterward, special scales began to grow out of his skin and flesh, covering Long Xie's body. The scorching energy and terrifying impact of the explosion were quickly absorbed by these scales. Seeing this, Wang Feng nodded. Although the crag dragon was an ordinary soul beast, Long Xie had cultivated it step by step. In addition, he had fed the rocks of the Rainbow Mountain with his blood. Naturally, his body had undergone the necessary changes. Just as he had said, the crag dragon had the dragon god's bloodline, although it was very faint. However, there was a chance that it could be activated. Apart from relying on Wang Feng's essence blood, Long Xie also had to rely on his own comprehension. If he could really activate the dragon god's bloodline, his body and Wang Feng's nurturing would allow him to rival the dragon god in the future. This crag dragon has grown special scales. They seem to be absorbing the energy from the explosions. Fan Yu was shocked. He seemed to have realized something. What ability is that? Does the crag dragon have such an ability? Obviously, it doesn't. Fan Yu took a deep breath. Is this crag dragon trying to comprehend some soul skill on its own? As he thought until here, Fan Yu calmed down and took out a few more high-explosive shells. These shells were very expensive. Each one cost more than 100 gold soul coins. However, I'll treat it as Ketu's tuition fee. Fan Yu could tell that Long Xie wanted to use his soul-carving beast to withstand the stationary soul tools. Besides wanting to experience them, he also wanted to use this opportunity to train his soul-carving beast. This was because the attacks of stationary soul tools covered a large area. They could cover the opponent's entire body. It could really be used to train his soul-carving beast. Long Xie's scales shone brighter. They were dark yellow and carried a unique aura. Wang Feng could sense that they were the aura of the purest Dragon Ball bloodline. These scales were a sign of mutation. They could also be a sign that his bloodline had been activated. The crag dragon from before didn't have any scales. It was just a rustic dragon. It couldn't even be considered a pseudo-dragon. If this continues, your soul-carving beast will be fine, right? Ma Xiaodao felt the increasingly terrifying explosions. She was a little worried. It was too exaggerated. It's fine. Wang Feng squinted his eyes. The stronger Long Xie became, the more beneficial it would be to him. This kind of omnidirectional explosion was the best training for Long Xie, who was currently extremely large. At this moment, perhaps because of their accuracy, Long Xie fired more than 10 of them. 3 of them were slightly off target. They went straight for Ma Xiaodao and Wang Feng. Be careful. On the other side, Zhou, he was so shocked that she broke out in a cold sweat. Even if Fan Yu was the one using the stationary soul tool, he still couldn't control it well. Long Xie was too big. Even if the shots were off target, they still hit him. However, there were still a few of them. Phoenix possession. Ma Xiaodao didn't even think when she saw the 3 bombs. She immediately used martial soul possession. She wanted to forcefully receive the 3 bombs. It didn't matter even if she was injured. However, the troublesome thing was that when the 3 bombs fell from the sky, they accidentally collided with each other. 2 of them immediately exploded, and then the 3rd bomb was instantly detonated. In the blink of an eye, a scorching and explosive force that could shatter everything swept over. The flames were secondary. Even Ma Xiaodao couldn't take the impact of such an explosion. At this moment, an ancient syllable sounded from Wang Feng's mouth. Defend. The mysterious syllable resonated in the sky. A streak of spiritual power condensed and fused into this ancient and holy syllable. In an instant, the explosive force mixed with the scorching flames seemed to be wrapped by an invisible force. Chapter 11:22. Before it hit Ma Xiaodao, it seemed to freeze. Immediately after, the huge impact of the scorching flames instantly solidified and vanished into thin air. It was the imperial sound of the chaotic 8 notes. After Wang Feng perfected it, this mysterious ancient sound could defend against any attack that couldn't be defended against. It could break any technique that couldn't be broken, and it could resist any force that couldn't be resisted. It represented supreme defense. Defense and imperial. They were one. Everyone present was stunned when they saw this scene. The explosion on Long Xie's body also calmed down after Fan Yu stopped attacking. Ma Xiaodao's face was a little pale. The terrifying force of the flames was very close to her. She could even feel the terrifying explosive force contained within it. She wasn't good at defense. If she took this attack head-on, she would definitely be severely injured. However, she didn't expect the terrifying explosive force from the fusion of the three bombs to vanish under this mysterious ancient sound. "Are you all right?" Wang Feng's voice came from behind. Ma Xiaotao turned around and looked at him. He seemed to be the one who released that mysterious ancient sound. Is that a type of spiritual power? It's unbelievable. How'd he do it? Zhou Yi felt like she had heard a similar ancient sound before. She suddenly recalled that her opponent had used a similar ancient sound in the soul dueling arena. However, the entire arena quietened down then, and her mind became clear. It was very strange. "I'm fine." Ma Xiaotao's eyes sparkled. The chaotic 8 notes were very strong. Although Wang Feng had only just perfected it, it was also because of his ambition. He wanted to perfect the chaotic 8 notes to the point where it could rival the heaven-shrouding 9 secrets. Although there was still a long way to go, it was still very strong. However, it was already beginning to take shape with small success. With the imperial sound, all attacks will be turned into nothing. At least, it could be countered by any attack below the level of the soul Dalu. It could even change the direction of the attack. Wang Feng's initial comprehension of inverse the universe was based on the U-word sound, the U-word. It was also mixed with his understanding of the power of laws. Against such a large-scale attack, the imperial sound was even more shocking. "It's good that you're fine." Wang Feng nodded slightly. "Elder, did you use a soul skill just now?" Ma Xiaotao couldn't help but ask curiously. "I guess so. It's a spiritual type soul skill. I created it myself," Wang Feng said bluntly. The chaotic 8 notes weren't a soul skill. It's just that he's talking about soul skills, that's all. "A spiritual type soul skill?" Ma Xiaotao exclaimed. "Isn't your martial soul an ice attribute martial soul? How did it become a spiritual type martial soul?" "Who said that only spiritual type martial souls can have spiritual type soul skills?" Wang Feng laughed. "Everyone has spiritual power. If they think they can do it, they can create their own spiritual type soul skills." Ma Xiaotao was stunned. She understood every word of Wang Feng's words. But after listening to him, he was a little confused. "Soul power is in our bodies." Wang Feng continued. "We can create our own soul skills. Spiritual power is also in our brains, so we can naturally create soul skills. It's just that spiritual power involves the brain. The slightest bit of carelessness could cause damage to the brain, so most people wouldn't try it. But that doesn't mean there aren't any." "Oh." Ma Xiaotao was enlightened. She did understand. Senior is wise. At this moment, Fan Yu suddenly walked over from afar and said with a serious face, "It's indeed so. Spiritual power is too complicated. Soul masters have developed for so many years, but spiritual-type martial souls are few and far between. The research on spiritual power is also very limited. It's because it's too dangerous to research." Wang Fengxin said, "Wasn't the research on the brain the same in my previous life? It's because it's too mysterious and unpredictable, so it's even more dangerous to research it. The technology in my previous life was so advanced, but the research on the human brain didn't progress much. Not to mention this fantasy world where soul masters were the main focus, as well as the special concept of spiritual power. It's estimated that in a few thousand years, humans might be able to achieve great results in research on spiritual power. However, senior spiritual type soul skill is truly extraordinary." Fan Yu was shocked. Using spiritual power to easily block an energy attack, this is truly an incomparably profound method. Of course it was profound. Wang Feng's spiritual power was only one part of this seemingly simple syllable. It also contained part of his comprehension of laws and his own comprehension. It formed a formless ancient sound that could affect the laws of space and break all kinds of attacks at the same time. How could they possibly understand it? The accuracy of your stationary soul tools is so low because your use of spiritual power is too low. Wang Feng shook his head and said, "My disciple Hui Yuhao's spiritual power detection soul skill is actually a type of high use of spiritual power. However, that's because of his soul skill and martial soul. It's a bit more powerful. In fact, high-ranking soul masters can also use spiritual power detection to achieve this. 10,000 years ago, titled Douluo experts could use spiritual power to detect the situation in their surroundings. They could achieve an effect similar to spiritual detection. Hui Yuhao's spiritual detection was strong because he was only a rank 10 soul master, but he had the spiritual power detection ability that only high-ranking soul masters had. In fact, with Fan Yu's strength, he could also achieve this by using more spiritual power and increasing the accuracy of his stationary soul tools. Unfortunately, soul masters still only focused on soul power, martial souls, and soul skills. The development of spiritual power was really limited. For example, many cultivation methods related to soul power had been created over the years. However, there weren't any spiritual power cultivation techniques. Only the purple demon eyes, which Little 3 had left behind, could be considered a mental power cultivation method. Fan Yu and Zhou looked at each other and laughed bitterly. This senior was asking them to create special spiritual soul skills. But how could it be so easy? If something happened to their spiritual power, it would be more troublesome than soul power backlash. They might even become idiots. I've learned something. Fan Yu bowed slightly. Ask Kaitu to make some preparations. Gather at my place in 4 days. I'll bring them out to search for soul beasts. Wang Feng said. Fan Yu nodded and looked at Long Xie. Is he all right? Long Xie was still comprehending with his eyes closed. However, more and more dark yellow scales were growing on his body. He's fine. Wang Feng revealed a smile on his face. It wasn't just fine. Long Xie had benefited immensely from Fan Yu's stationary soul tool. That's good. Fan Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Xiaodao, are you all right? I made a mistake just now. I'm sorry. It's fine, it's fine. Ma Xiaodao giggled. She thought to herself, fortunately, you made a mistake. It was quite crucial. Then we'll take our leave. Fan Yu and Zhou said. Wang Feng nodded slightly. The three of them left. Chapter 11:23. Kaitu, what do you think about soul charters? Fan Yu asked as they walked. Very strong, very powerful. Kaitu thought for a moment. That crag dragon was much stronger than normal crag dragons. I think this might have something to do with the nurturing of soul charters. Once one becomes a soul charter and has a soul beast as a companion, it'll be of great help. That's right. Fan Yu nodded slightly. You have to learn from this senior. This senior probably won't stay in the academy for long. What a pity. All right, Fan Yu. At this moment, Zhou suddenly spoke in a low voice. Were the last 3 high-explosive bombs intentional? Fan Yu was speechless. Fan Yu looked at Zhou. How could it be intentional? That thing is so dangerous. How could he use such a method to create an opportunity for Xiaodao? If something happens, I won't be able to bear the responsibility. That's strange. With your strength, you should have touched a stationary soul tool countless times. How could you make such a mistake? It's purely because I fired too many bombs. I don't believe it. When he said that, he implied that you, as a soul Douluo, would make a mistake and not use your spiritual power properly. I think he could tell that you did it intentionally. Wang Feng didn't really care if Fan Yu did it intentionally or not. Fan Yu might have wanted to test his strength and see if he could protect his students. Or he might have done it unintentionally. But no matter what, Wang Feng didn't think that Fan Yu might have been trying to create an opportunity for Ma Xiaodao. Only Ma Xiaodao would think this way. She felt that Fan Yu had done it on purpose. He'd done it on purpose so that the two of them could resolve this crisis and improve their relationship. Ma Xiaodao felt that her relationship with this mysterious Wang Feng had improved. This man was truly mysterious. Not only was he a soul charter, but he was also extremely strong. He could even create his own spiritual type soul skill. He was also so handsome and possessed an ice-type martial soul. Ma Xiaodao felt that the heavens might have sent him to her. Otherwise, how could there be such a perfect man in this world? However, he didn't seem to feel that he'd improved their relationship. Miss Xiaodao, is there anything else? Wang Feng said bluntly. That day, I unintentionally saved you, and today you helped me. It should be enough to offset it, right? Ma Xiaotao was stunned. She thought for a moment and said, But you saved me again just now. Wang Feng. So, Ma Xiaotao suddenly said, In order to repay you, how about I become your student? I also want to become a soul renderer. Wang Feng. You call this repaying me? Wang Feng couldn't help but say, That's not right. If you become my student, you'll be taking advantage of me. How are you repaying me? Hearing this, Ma Xiaotao blushed and said confidently, Can I be your experiment? If I become your student, I won't refuse any experiments you want to do on me. I'm also a soul emperor, so I'm not as weak as those rank 10 or 20 kids. A soul emperor's test subject. Towards the end, Ma Xiaotao blinked her eyes, her tone a little soft. It was as if the white-boned demon was seducing Tang Sanzang. That makes sense. Wang Feng nodded. Then he glanced at Long Xie. Long Xie's scales were still growing. However, his body was simply too big. It would take at least 10 days to completely cover his body with those dark yellow scales. Thinking of this, Wang Fengxin had an idea. How about this? Do me a favor. Wang Feng said, Do me a favor and I'll accept you as my student. Ma Xiaotao's eyes lit up. This was one of her goals. No problem. What favor? Tell me. I'll definitely not refuse. Ma Xiaotao said solemnly. How about this? For the next 4 days, you'll have to stay with me. Wang Feng looked at Ma Xiaotao. Ma Xiaotao heard this. Ma Xiaotao was stunned on the spot. Then, her face turned red. Even her snow-white neck was dyed with a layer of rouge. Her eyes were full of shame. Was he trying to invite me to his wedding? But isn't this too fast? Ma Xiaotao's heart was beating wildly. Although she had a good impression of him, Ma Xiaotao looked at Wang Feng and found that she couldn't refuse. Isn't this too fast? Ma Xiaotao stammered. At least after some time together. Together? Wang Feng shook his head. I don't have time. I'm in a hurry. So, do you agree or not? If you don't, I'll do it myself. It'll be more troublesome. Do it yourself. Ma Xiaotao was so embarrassed that she didn't know what to say. She glanced at Wang Feng's hands. He didn't look like someone who was in such a hurry. The impact of this sudden request made Ma Xiaotao temporarily lose her ability to think. In other words, her IQ was lowered. Well, it's not good to do it too much by myself. Ma Xiaotao's body was emitting heat. She lowered her head and said softly, I'll agree. Just treat it as repayment for saving me. All right. Wang Feng nodded. But you have to be prepared. These few days might be a little tiring. Ma Xiaotao's body trembled. Her skin flushed red. She looked at Wang Feng angrily. How could he say something like that? You. Ma Xiaotao looked at Wang Feng. She didn't know what to say. In the end, she said in a shy and angry voice, All right, then let's get started. Wang Feng smiled and pointed at Long Xie. Ma Xiaotao felt a little dizzy in that instant. Get started? Just like that? Ma Xiaotao looked at Wang Feng dizzily. Wasn't he in too much of a hurry? Did he have to be in such a hurry? Well, at least wait until it's dark, right? Am I Ma Xiaoyao, that kind of girl? Ma Xiaotao was so embarrassed that she almost left. However, after thinking about it, she sensed the faint, attractive aura coming from him. She also sensed the evil fire in her martial soul. Her body trembled. She whispered, Then, let's go back to the house. Why should we go back to the house? Let's do it here. Wang Feng looked at Ma Xiaotao. You. Ma Xiaotao almost fainted. Here? Oh my God. Ma Xiaotao looked around. There was no one around. There were only a few trees in the distance. This place was quite secluded. However, all right. Ma Xiaotao gritted her teeth. She told herself that she had to repay Wang Feng's kindness. She slowly unbuttoned her outer clothes. However, at this moment, Wang Feng said in surprise, Why are you taking off your clothes all of a sudden? I told you to attack Long Xie. Will your strength increase if you take off your clothes? Ma Xiaotao was stunned when she heard this. Her half-unbuttoned outer clothes froze in the air. Author's note, cough, cough. Chapter 1124. Ma Xiaodao froze on the spot. Her mind went blank. He didn't mean it that way. Oh my God, what was I thinking? Ma Xiaotao, who had lost her mind, suddenly understood. It was all a misunderstanding. But this misunderstanding was too big. Ma Xiaodao wanted to crawl into a crack in the ground. This was too embarrassing. Don't tell me you're thinking of. At this time, Wang Feng suddenly looked at Ma Xiaotao and said in surprise, "Could it be?" Ma Xiaodao blushed again when she heard this. She quickly looked up and waved her hands. No, I'm taking off my clothes. It's just that Ma Xiaotao was so anxious that she couldn't say anything. Is it because of the evil fire? Wang Feng asked. Or is it because of your martial soul that you're more powerful when you take off your clothes? Is it because you can release your soul power? Yes. Ma Xiaotao nodded. That's the reason. She heaved a sigh of relief. It seems like you didn't notice anything. That's great. Then you should go back and rest. Come back in the afternoon, Wang Feng said. Ma Xiaotao didn't dare to face the man in front of her. She quickly left with a red face. She ran to the side of the lake and jumped into it. He wanted to let the clear and cold lake water cool down his heated body, as well as the distracting thoughts from earlier. That was close. What was I doing? Ma Xiaodao covered her burning cheeks. Why was I so slutty? I can't do that again. That's not right. When did I, Ma Xiaodao, become such a love-struck fool? Ma Xiaodao, you're so stupid. As she spoke, she slapped herself twice, as if to wake herself up. After thinking for a while, Ma Xiaotao couldn't help but say, I shouldn't blame him. You can't blame me for this. It's mainly because this man is too handsome. It's easy to lose your mind after looking at him for too long. Yes, it's definitely not my fault. To prevent this from happening again, I've decided to look at him more. That way, I'll be immune to it. I'm so smart. Boss, why are you so interested in teasing this little girl? Long Xie asked through voice transmission. Clearly, this pretentious dragon was an old dragon. Just in case something like this really happens in the future. If she can't help it, I'm sure she'll recall what happened today. Wang Feng said. After all, I'm so handsome that even a woman can't help it. Long Xie was speechless. Boss, have some shame. Trust me, you're not that handsome, Long Xie said with a smile. Wang Feng glared at Long Xie. Be a good boy and comprehend it. I'll have Ma Xiaodao attack you in the next few days to stimulate your potential. It will speed up the growth of your dragon scales. Although Wang Feng was just teasing Ma Xiaodao, his goal was to make Ma Xiaodao stay. He didn't want her to attack Long Xie. Long Xie was enlightened after being attacked by the stationary soul tools. His body had mutated to a certain extent, and his bloodline was showing signs of being activated. As long as he kept attacking, Long Xie would be able to reach 10,000 years in the next few days. However, it was clear that Fan Yu couldn't keep using his stationary soul tool to attack. Ma Xiaodao was a very good choice. Wang Feng knew about the evil fire phoenix's soul skills. Even though there were some changes, they were mostly the same. The flames covered Long Xie's body and stimulated the growth of his scales. Damn, Long Xie snorted. I say, boss, as far as I know, your wives have all become gods. You've recultivated this body. If they find out that you've hooked up with new girls, they'll be scared. Aren't you afraid? What's there to be afraid of? No. When did I hook up with new girls? Wang Feng thought for a moment. Are you blaming me for becoming more handsome? It's not your fault. I'm afraid that if they find out, they'll work together to scratch your face a few times. Let's see how you're going to attract girls then. Long Xie chuckled. They're all gods now. They can't beat my original body, even if they work together. Wang Feng shook his head. Furthermore, the God realm has lost contact with the Douluo continent. They won't know what's happening on the Douluo continent. Boss, your words have exposed the dirty thoughts in your heart. Long Xie laughed. Is that what you're thinking? Is that why you want to hook up with these girls? Boss, you're an old cow eating young grass. Have some shame. Wang Feng shrugged. Let nature take its course. I've said everything I need to say. You're a single dragon. Don't think those girls are so simple. Times have changed. Everyone advocates monogamy. 10,000 years ago, it was still an empire. Those emperors and nobles had many women. That's why Zhu Qing and the others can accept Rong Rong and the others. Now, the Federation is unified. Back then, Dong abolished the empire system after unifying the two empires. In the beginning, the Federation accepted monogamy because it wanted to continue rare martial souls. However, it was abolished later. Now, monogamy is the norm in the Federation. Those girls can't accept polygamy. That was indeed the rule in the Federation. Of course, many sects and families would match a pot of tea with several teacups for the continuation of their descendants or the inheritance of their martial souls. However, the mainstream view was monogamy. Long Xie chuckled. She's obviously targeting you. I suspect that your first wife guessed that you'd wake up in the future, so she purposely set this rule. That way, you won't have the chance to flirt with other girls. Wang Feng was taken aback. He thought to himself, what the dragon boasting dragon said made some sense. He was very powerful now. He didn't have to worry about the system sending him out of this world. Forget it. I didn't want to flirt with her. Wang Feng sneered. If I wanted to, do you think I wouldn't have a chance? I think I've had enough. That's true. Although you're thick-skinned, it's true that you're very charming. Long Xie thought for a moment, then said, I think you should seal your looks in the future. Even if you don't provoke others, you'll still be able to attract them. Even if you don't flirt with other people, who knows how many girls will fall for you. TSK, TSK. You'll be in love debt by then. Wang Feng looked up at the sky. What Long Xie said made sense. However, bullshit, Wang Feng said disdainfully. Why should I seal my appearance just because I'm too handsome? If they fall for me because of my looks, I have to seal my appearance? I would have done that 10,000 years ago. But forget it now. I don't have that obligation. It's not my love debt. It's their love tribulation. If it's true, it's their fate. If they can overcome it, they might be able to reach a higher level. I'm helping them. Long Xie was speechless. In a chapter. Chapter 1125. Boss, no one in this world is as shameless as you. Long Xie was speechless. But that's a bold statement. That's true. Boss, you're someone who can fight a godly king. Why do you care about that? The dragon god was a playboy, and he only left 9 descendants. Who knows how many cough. Boss, you don't even have 1,000th of the dragon god's descendants. Scram. I'm not AF * king dragon. Wang Feng snapped. Long Xie chuckled. Actually, when I was absorbing evil thoughts in the great Star Do forest, I received confessions from many pure-blooded female dragons. However, I was focused on cultivating back then, and I wanted to overcome my heavenly tribulation. It's a pity. Even that bastard Tion has the infernal devil dragon clan as his vassal. I wonder how those female dragons have been over the past 10,000 years. Long Xie heaved a long sigh. Come to think of it, I remember a voice communicating with me in the great Star Do forest. I feel like she's also a descendant of a dragon god, even though I've never seen her before. Wang Feng thought for a moment before continuing. She should be the silver dragon that the dragon god split off from, right? She seems to be a female dragon. Long Xie's expression changed when he heard this. I can't afford to offend her. I'm only a strand of evil thought from the dragon god when he was young. However, she's one of the dragon god's 2 origins that perished when he was at his peak. Apart from the dragon god, she's the strongest. Then what are you afraid of? You won't be any weaker than the dragon god after being trained by your boss. Wang Feng chuckled. Speaking of which, you should be more senior than her, right? It's not the same. Long Xie laughed bitterly. When I was first born, I was just a strand of evil thought. After a long time, I slowly absorbed the evil thought and gained sentience. When I finally awakened, the dragon god had already perished. The silver dragon escaped from the god realm and went into hibernation in the great Star Do forest. However, she sent me back then. I was still very weak back then. Even though she was severely injured, she could still easily kill me. That's why I've always been a little afraid. I guess so. That's why I didn't say anything when she was talking to you. I'll leave it to you, boss. This silver dragon carries the will of the dragon god. It's not that simple. The conversation between the man and the dragon stopped there. Wang Feng shook his head inwardly. He didn't think that the fearless Long Xie would be afraid of something. Over the next few days, Ma Xiaodao followed the rules and went to Wang Feng's residence to attack Long Xie with wide-range attacks. Long Xie's dragon scales were stimulated by Ma Xiaodao's attacks and grew faster. To Long Xie, it was indeed a bit bitter, but compared to his experience, he could only grumble a bit. In his heart, he was still willing. On the fourth night, finally, all of Long Xie's scales grew out. Even if a rock dragon was 10,000 years old, it was still a rock dragon without scales. As for 100,000 years, there was no rock dragon that had cultivated to 100,000 years for the time being, so there was no way to test it. Long Xie's current growth path had already exceeded the limits of his race. Night fell. Ma Xiaodao was sweating all over. She was panting as she lay on the ground. Because of her sweat, her clothes stuck tightly to her charming body. However, her eyes were glued to Long Xie, who wasn't far away. Wang Feng walked over and handed her a cup of ice water. "Thank you." Ma Xiaodao hurriedly stood up and took the cup of ice water. She drank it in one gulp and spat out a breath of cold air. "No need. This is what I'm supposed to do." After several hours of nonstop attacks, Ma Xiaodao's body was burning hot due to the use of her martial soul. Her body would emit flames from time to time. After drinking this cup of ice water, he instantly felt extremely comfortable. The rich heaven-earth yuan qi from the ice water entered his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. "Go rest in the room for the night." Wang Feng pointed. "I'll take you to find a soul-bonding beast tomorrow." Okay." Ma Xiaodao looked around the room. She hadn't fought in the past few days, but she had been using all her strength to attack Long Xie. For some reason, Ma Xiaodao didn't feel tired even though she was using up a lot of soul power. Instead, he was filled with energy and was full of vigor every day. The ice water might be special, but Ma Xiaodao thought about it for a few days. She didn't think it was because of the ice water. "Senior, this ice water is so magical. Where did you get it?" Ma Xiaodao looked at Wang Feng and asked curiously. Every time she looked at him over the past few days, Ma Xiaodao realized that the reason she was filled with energy was because of this man in front of her. It was incredible. Could it be that, from a certain perspective, seeing such a handsome man would bring strength to a soul master? Wang Feng knew the reason. It was like in his past life. If you saw an unforgettable man or woman on the streets, you would be excited for a long time. From a scientific point of view, looking at a man as handsome as Wang Feng would cause the brain to produce a substance called dopamine. This substance could make people excited and happy. It can make people motivated to do anything. There are many other functions. From an aesthetic point of view, this might be the source of the charm. Of course, in a fantasy world, one could not talk about science, but it was a similar principle. About this, Wang Feng smiled. Ma Xiaodao felt energized when she saw his smile. Her soul power was depleted, but she still wanted to go all out. This ice water was soaked in the egg of the Qilin Lord of Ice Empress. The absolute ice soul power contained rich origin energy. It could suppress Ma Xiaodao's evil fire and help her recover her soul power. Compared to those recovery pills and miraculous medicines, it was far more important. The Qilin Lord of Ice Empress was about to break, so the egg would often release rich origin energy. Soaking in ice water could be used. It would be a waste. It's soaked in a type of spiritual medicine. Wang Feng didn't say that it was soaked in an egg. It sounded weird. Then it should be very precious. Ma Xiaodao was stunned. She looked at the ice water and felt embarrassed. "It's not expensive. Go and rest." Wang Feng looked at Long Xie. Long Xie was about to evolve after 10,000 years. This was the first time it had undergone a qualitative change since it started cultivating again. "I don't want to rest. Can I stay and see what changes will happen to this stone dragon?" Ma Xiaodao hurriedly said. "Sure." Wang Feng nodded. Long Xie was covered in a layer of dark yellow light. The dark yellow dragon scales all over its body exuded a valiant aura under the bright moonlight. Chapter 11:26. Long Xie's body was now 10 meters long. His body was covered in tough muscles, but the scales made him look like metal. Under this layer of dark yellow light, Long Xie's body was covered in a layer of dark yellow light. SSSSS. A pair of dragon wings grew out of Long Xie's back under this dark yellow light. Densely packed dragon scales quickly covered the pair of dragon wings that were more than 10 meters long. The light purple dragon wings were engraved with mysterious patterns, and they carried with them a faint aura of destruction. They seemed to contain a powerful destructive power. Long Xie's claws became sharper, and they shone with a cold light. They were colder than the moon in the sky. Long Xie's eyes suddenly opened. They were blood red. This is the aura of a true dragon, and it's the aura of a 10,000-year soul beast. Ma Xiaotao was shocked. How can a crag dragon have the aura of a true dragon? Senior, is he really a crag dragon? Long Xie's back had many protrusions in addition to the wings. They looked very oppressive. However, they didn't look ugly. They were perfect. He has evolved, Wang Feng answered. Soul-bound beasts usually evolve after 1,000 or 10,000 years. They are bound to evolve. Depending on the cultivation of the soul-bound beast and the bloodline of the soul-bound beast, the evolution period will be the same. However, they will evolve after 1,000 or 10,000 years. Evolve? Ma Xiaoyao was stunned. The 1,000-year and 10,000-year soul beasts had a threshold. Normally, soul beasts would undergo some changes when they reached these two stages. However, most soul beasts would only change in size. Evolution meant a change in all aspects. At least, that was what was happening to this crag dragon. This was even more exaggerated than the true dragons that Ma Xiaotao knew. Ma Xiaotao had seen some true dragons before. Many soul beast forests, or some special danger zones, had extremely powerful true dragons. Even as a martial soul, there was the blue lightning tyrant dragon or other types of true dragon bloodline martial souls. Its aura was also very strong. However, the crag dragon in front of him was truly extraordinary. Roar. As the dark yellow light disappeared, Long Xie roared. A huge wave of energy exploded from his body. Countless leaves were swept up, and a sharp gust of wind stirred up the space. After a while, the light disappeared. A brand new Long Xie appeared in front of them. Boss, it's been 10,000 years, Long Xie said excitedly. As a former million-year soul beast, he shouldn't be so excited over a mere 10,000-year breakthrough. However, this rebirth meant a lot to Long Xie. Not bad. Wang Feng walked over and stared at the dragon that looked like a real mountain. The scales all over his body glowed with a dark yellow rock-like luster, giving off a heavy and ancient feeling. The dragon wings on his back were filled with mystery, and as they danced in the air, they carried with them the destructive power of lightning. Wang Feng guessed that this was most likely because he had swallowed the 5-color mountain rock. The purple mountain in the center was set up by the godly king of destruction, and it contained the law of destruction. The godly king of destruction also controlled the power of lightning, which was the same origin power as Wang Feng's thunder of judgment and judgment. In fact, from this, it was clear that the tribulation origin God King's status and power in the God world. His 7 kinds of source powers were even stronger compared to the 5 great divine kings added together. The evil dragon had devoured the rock Wang Feng had brought from the central mountain, and it might have mutated, giving its wings a special lightning attribute. It was an additional mutation. It gave Long Xie's body a unique and domineering aura. He thought back to the half-meter-tall crag beast and the 10-meter-tall Long Xie. It had only been a little more than 4 months. However, Long Xie's cultivation speed would slow down after 10,000 years. Wang Feng thought it would take a long time for him to reach 100,000 years. As for 1,000,000 years, that was even longer. However, it wasn't a problem for Wang Feng. After all, Long Xie's current cultivation wasn't purely reliant on absorbing evil intent like before. If I meet that woman now, I can beat her for sure, Long Xie said proudly. He was a 10,000-year soul beast. Ordinary 100,000-year soul beasts couldn't beat him. Wang Feng smiled. At the same time, his first soul ring turned black. "Oh yes, boss. I can give you 2 soul rings now." Long Xie chuckled and transmitted his voice. "I'm not an ordinary 10,000-year soul beast. According to your estimation, 100,000-year soul-bonded beast will give a soul master 2 soul rings. However, I'm special." Long Xie was talking about the rules of the soul contract. When a soul beast reached 100,000 years, it would give a soul master 2 soul rings. Therefore, a soul master only needed to nurture 4 to 5 soul-bonded beasts. When they reached 100,000 years, they would become a title Douluo. Not only did it reduce the need for soul beasts, but it also made it easier for soul masters to obtain soul rings. Wang Feng estimated that it would take several decades for a 10,000-year soul beast to cultivate to a 100,000-year soul beast under normal circumstances. It wouldn't take more than 100 years. It would take a certain amount of luck to nurture it to 1,000,000 years. Time alone wasn't enough. This was within the range of a soul master's lifespan. Soul masters could live up to 100 years. Even soul sages and soul Douluo could live up to 100 years, let alone title Dalu. Therefore, in the future, a soul master would only have 4 to 5 soul beasts as his official partners. Long Xie was a special case. He was able to provide Wang Feng with 2 soul rings at the age of 10,000. He was a special case. 2 soul rings. That means we don't have to wait for Lin Lord Ice Empress to hatch. Wang Feng thought for a moment. Let's not delay. I'll break through to rank 20 tonight. Breaking through was a good thing for him. This was because breaking through to rank 20 meant that one of his 5 godly king seals would be broken. He would gain 1/5 of his physical strength. His original body was at rank 100. His physical strength couldn't compare to a godly king's. However, Wang Feng could easily defeat a god below a godly king. His original body's rank 100 soul power could defeat a godly king. However, he didn't rely on his physical strength. He relied on the chaotic Green Lotus various enhancements. But for the current Wang Feng, 1/5 of his rank 100 soul force was more than enough for him to roam the continent unhindered. Even an ordinary title Dalu couldn't take a punch from Wang Feng's rank 100 soul power. Even exceptional Dalu wouldn't be able to take a punch from his second seal at rank 40. His third seal would be god-level strength. His fourth seal would be a rank 3 god. His fifth seal would be close to a rank 1 god. Wang Feng's rank 100 soul power was close to a rank 1 god. With the chaotic Green Lotus or the Pangu axe, he could easily defeat a godly king. Chapter 1127. All right, no problem. Where's this little girl? Long Xie looked at Ma Xiaodao, who was looking at him curiously. Wang Feng glanced at Ma Xiaodao. You should go and rest. You'll be even more tired when you leave the academy tomorrow. Ma Xiaodao acknowledged his words. She glanced at Long Xie and left. She was full of anticipation for tomorrow. Wang Feng started to absorb Long Xie's second soul ring in the latter half of the night. This was nothing much. It was just that one of the patterns on his body that represented the seal of the laws was broken. Once his second soul ring appeared, Wang Feng's soul power rank started to increase rapidly. These 2 soul rings didn't bring much improvement to Wang Feng's body. However, this improvement was continuous. When Long Xie became a 1,000,000-year soul ring, the improvement to Wang Feng's body was significant. After breaking through to rank 20, Wang Feng possessed true strength. His spiritual power also increased rapidly with the enhancement of his second soul ring. Under the cultivation of the front secret word, his spiritual power had already condensed into a liquid state. The strength of the chaotic 8 notes was inseparable from his spiritual power. Otherwise, Wang Feng wouldn't use it so casually. The next morning, Hui Yuhao, Wang Dong, Xiao Xiao, Hikaitu, and Ma Xiaodao all found Wang Feng. Hui Yuhao had become Fan Yu's disciple in the Soul Tool department with Zhou Yi's help, so he knew Hikaitu. However, the 3 of them were unfamiliar with Ma Xiaodao. After some introductions, the 5 of them walked out of the academy and towards the Soul Beast Forest several hundred kilometers away from Shrek City. Wang Feng didn't plan to go to the Great Stardow Forest. There were many evil soul beasts there. Many soul beasts have been infected by evil soul beasts. Unless they enter the core region, it would be too troublesome. Wang Feng tried his best to choose soul beasts that weren't that old to reduce the difficulty of taming them. There were still many soul beast forests outside Shrek City. The continent had changed over the past 10,000 years, and many soul beast forests had appeared. At the entrance, Wang Feng looked at Hui Yuhao and the others and nodded in satisfaction. These few people included mid-tier and high-tier soul masters. They were the first batch of good test subjects, even though there were only 5 of them. Before we leave, you can use your brains to think. What kind of soul beast do you need? Wang Feng muttered. The nearest soul beast forest outside the city is only 300 kilometers away. However, this trip will take us at least half a month, and we'll have to stay in it. Of course, you'll have to train yourselves as well. On the way, I will introduce you to the relevant knowledge of soul renters in detail. This is to give you a general framework in your hearts, but the choice of soul beasts is very important. He will be your future battle partner and the target of your training. Please don't choose from the perspective of being cute and good-looking. That can only be used as an additional option, not the most important option. After hearing this, Xiao Xiao and Wang Dong subconsciously blushed. Wang Feng's words were obviously referring to them. On the other side, Yin Xiaozhe, Qian Duo, and a few other higher-ups of the academy were watching from afar. The Soul Beast Forest outside Shrek City is very safe. Then we don't need to send people to protect them in secret. Qian Duo smiled and said, in the Soul Beast Forest a few hundred kilometers away, the 10,000-year soul beasts are the highest. Although there are some rare soul beasts, there are very few 100,000-year soul beasts. Furthermore, there are very few evil soul beasts. Yin Xiaozhe nodded. Although there were many people in the academy, the teachers and elders of the Sea God's Pavilion had their own things to do. Naturally, they couldn't send people to protect them. The Soul Beast Forest, a few hundred kilometers away from the city, was also a place where many teachers from the outer courtyard brought their students to train. It was very suitable for training. Only those who were bold and had special requirements for their soul rings would go to the outer regions of the Great Star Do Forest to search for soul beasts. At this moment, Wang Feng summoned Long Xie and rode the 5 of them into the sky. This crag dragon has really become a 10,000-year soul beast. Qian Duo focused his gaze. Old Yin, Wang Feng's aura is becoming more and more mysterious. I could still sense it a few days ago. Today, I can't sense it at all. His soul power seems to have reached rank 20. Where did he obtain his soul rings? Can that soul-renting beast provide him with 2 soul rings? In the distance, the crag dragon's vision gradually disappeared into the horizon. We'll know when he returns and ask him. Yin Xiaozhe's eyes flashed. Elder Mu and Little Xian will be back in 2 days. We'll talk to them and see what they think. They watched Wang Feng leave and sighed in their hearts. After that, they returned to the academy. Not long after Wang Feng left, half a day later, 2 figures sped towards the Shrek Academy from afar. Eventually, they turned into 2 streaks of flowing light and landed on the island in the center of the lake in the Shrek Academy's inner courtyard. Seeing these 2 figures descend, several figures also suddenly appeared in the majestic Sea God's Pavilion in the distance. Elder Mu, Elder Xian, Yin Xiaozhe, Qian Duo, 2 ladies around 40 years old, and several elders from the Sea God's Pavilion were stunned as they looked at the 2 of them. One of them looked very ordinary and old. He looked like he had 1 foot in the grave and could be blown away by a gust of wind. Right now, his face was very pale, as if he had been severely injured. He was sitting in a wheelchair, and his soul power undulations caused his gray robes to flutter. The other person had messy hair and a dirty face. He had a purple wine gourd around his waist, and he was eating a roasted chicken. The roasted chicken was piping hot, and its aroma wafted in all directions. However, this elder was eating very gloomily. It was as if he wasn't eating a delicious roasted chicken, but a chicken rib. Elder Mu, Elder Xian, Yin Xiaozhe, and the rest looked at each other. They didn't know what had happened. The auras from these 2 people weren't stable. It was very strange a few months ago, as the two pillars of the Shrek Academy and one of the few exceptional Douluo in the world, the dragon god Douluo, Muin, and the Taodai, Douluo, Xianzi. The two of them were invited to the central martial soul palace to discuss important matters. They were gone for a few months and only returned now. Xiaoza, pass down our orders. Elder Mu coughed a few times, and his voice was hoarse. In the future, without our permission, no teacher or student of the Shrek Academy is allowed to enter any soul beast forest. Remember, it doesn't seem like anything. If any student needs a soul ring to advance, they have to be led by at least 3 titled Douluo to the nearest soul beast forest to search. No student can enter any soul beast forest alone to search for soul rings. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Old Xian nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "Pass down this order first. If there are any students or teachers training outside, immediately summon them back. After that, we'll hold a meeting in the Sea God's Pavilion." Elder Mu, and I didn't expect the continent situation to change during this trip to the Central Martial Soul Palace. We'll talk about it when the time comes. The two of them looked very nervous. It seemed like they had encountered something in the Central Martial Soul Palace. Summon them back. Yin Xiaozha and the rest frowned slightly. However, there was no doubt that Elder Mu and Elder Xian had their reasons for doing this. Yin Xiaozha looked at a lady behind him. "Lishuan, go and summon Wang Feng and the rest back. As for the other teachers, we'll send people over. P.S. 4 chapters today. I'll update more tomorrow. A new week or a vote." Chapter 1128. The Soul Beast Forest. With Long Xie's wings, it took him less than an hour to reach the Soul Beast Forest to the west of Shrek City. This was Long Xie's first time taking flight after growing wings. Long Xie's back protruded out like a cushion. Aside from being used for defense, it was also very suitable for riding. The journey to the Soul Beast Forest was relatively smooth. There were many Soul Beast forests on the continent that had evolved over time. Most Soul Beast forests had their own names. This particular forest was called the Purple Maple Soul Beast Forest because the Soul Bees here weren't very strong and the trees were mostly purple maple trees. From the sky, one could see a lavender ocean. Gusts of wind blew from time to time, causing countless purple maple trees to topple to one side. Ripples could be seen in the forest as the wind blew. It was a magnificent sight. Small soul beasts would fly out from time to time, chirping as they flew in the air. The natural energy in the forest was denser than in human settlements. The air here wasn't any worse than the air in Shrek Academy. The unique fragrance of the purple maple trees, mixed with the smell of dust and dew, was one of the reasons many students were willing to come to this forest to train. This place is beautiful. Long Xie was just about to descend from the sky when a flying soul beast suddenly came crashing down at him from afar. It was a golden-headed owl that was about 30 centimeters long. Its feathers were light brown, and its pupils were vertical with a tinge of black. It screeched as it charged at Long Xie. Because of the cat eagle's extreme speed, a white jade ribbon was blown up in the air. Long Xie roared at the owl, but the aura of a high-class soul beast didn't threaten the owl at all. "It's a 300-year-old golden-headed owl," Ma Xiaotao said. "It's one of the more common flying-type soul beasts in the purple maple forest. It preys on rodent soul beasts and will also eat the purple maple nuts produced by the purple maple trees. It rarely attacks humans." Wang Feng patted Long Xie on the back, indicating that he didn't need to attack the owl. Clatter! The golden-headed owl slammed into Long Xie. How tough was Long Xie now? Its body was densely covered with dark yellow dragon scales. Not to mention a 300-year-old golden-headed owl. Even a 30,000-year golden-headed owl might not be able to break through Long Xie's defenses. The golden cat eagle rammed into Long Xie's side and knocked itself out. Its feathers scattered as it fell from the sky. It was dizzy. It fell a few dozen meters before it came back to its senses and slammed into Long Xie again. "What's wrong with this little thing?" Long Xie was angry. "Do you think I'm kind? Don't stop me. I'm going to eat this owl. I'm a 10,000-year soul beast, and he's just a 300-year golden eagle. How dare he attack me? Clatter. As he spoke, the golden cat eagle rammed into Long Xie's flank. Although Long Xie was being tickled, he was still annoyed. No need. Wang Feng furrowed his brow. Just as the owl was about to attack Long Xie, Wang Feng dashed through the air and grabbed the owl with his soul force. Long Xie did a quick turn in the air and flew under Wang Feng to put him back on his back. Wang Feng grabbed the head of the golden owl and placed it on Long Xie's back. This golden-headed owl looks pretty cute. Xiao Xiao patted the owl's feathers. But why does it dare to attack a soul beast that's so much stronger than it? Soul beasts were usually strong enough to suppress weaker soul beasts with their size and aura. You know too little about soul beasts, Wang Feng said. The golden owl is a soul beast that possesses the bloodline of the tiger eagle. The tiger eagle is one of the strongest soul beasts in the sky. This type of soul beast has a powerful characteristic, which is that it doesn't fear soul beasts stronger than it. Simply put, they're reckless. In the sky, they will attack any soul beast that enters their territory once it is seen as their territory. Everyone nodded when they heard that. This golden-headed owl is pretty strong. Wang Feng patted the owl's head. There was a tuft of golden fur on its head. It looked at everyone with a fierce gaze, but it calmed down when Wang Feng patted it. Look at its feathers. Wang Feng pointed at the owl's feathers. These feathers look very thin and soft. But once you attack him, these feathers will turn into sharp feather blades that can cut through anything. As he spoke, Wang Feng gently patted the back of the golden-head owl. Screech! All of a sudden, the golden-head cat eagle's feathers began to shrink as if they were about to explode. As it shrank, the feather reflected a cold light under the sunlight. It was like a thin and sharp blade with faint black patterns. Wang Feng paused. This golden-headed owl... Senior, what's wrong? Ma Xiaodao asked. Wang Feng shook his head. Nothing. Teacher, can I try to interact with this golden-headed owl? Xiao Xiao asked nervously. This golden-headed owl was a little cute. Wang Feng glanced at her. You're a control type and auxiliary type soul master. When looking for a soul beast, you should focus on defense. This golden-headed owl is more suitable for assault-type soul masters. This golden-headed owl is strong in attack, but its speed and defense are average. It's not suitable for you, but I think it's pretty, Xiao Xiao said. Wang Feng was speechless. He looked at everyone. When we came, I told you to think about what kind of soul beast to look for. Don't focus on what you like. That's just an additional condition. The prerequisite is that it has to be suitable for you. Different types of soul beasts have different abilities. You must choose the direction you want to cultivate from the beginning. Otherwise, it'll be too late to regret, Wang Fengxin said. Fortunately, he was the one who chose for you. If they chose on their own, they would have suffered a lot. Xiao Xiao nodded and patted the golden-headed owl's head. Little owl, it seems that you and I are not fated. Screech! The golden-headed owl didn't even look at Xiao Xiao. Actually, there are many defense-type soul beasts that look good. Wang Feng pointed at the golden-headed owl. Among the eagle-type soul beasts, there's a type called the diamond dragonhawk. It's a rare breed. Although it flies slowly, it has both offense and defense. As your first soul beast, it's very suitable for you. It's also much better looking than the golden-headed owl. Really? Xiao Xiao was surprised. Teacher, can we find one? Chapter 1129. The Vajra Dragon Eagle is a rare soul beast, isn't it? Ma Xiaotao was confused. I've heard that this type of soul beast is violent and aggressive. Most of them are 1,000-year soul beasts. It's already good enough that they don't attack humans when they see them, let alone taming them. Wang Feng nodded. As expected of a soul emperor, Ma Xiaotao knew more than Hui Yuhao and the others. That's why it depends on luck. Wang Feng let Long Xie land outside the purple maple forest. The few of them jumped off Long Xie's back. Looking at the purple spectacle around him, he couldn't help but feel relaxed and happy. The purple maple soul beast forest was one of the more picturesque forests out there. The lavender purple maple trees weren't very tall. The thickest ones only needed 2 people to wrap their arms around them. These trees made it very easy to see through the forest. They weren't like the ancient trees that were more than 100 meters tall. The dense foliage made it very difficult to see what was in front of them. Teacher, it's foggy. He pointed to the fog in front of them. My spiritual detection's range has decreased. This doesn't seem to happen in the purple maple forest. It's usually not foggy. Ma Xiaotao looked forward. Wang Feng muttered to himself for a while before releasing the huge golden-head cathawk from his arms. However, the golden owl circled above Wang Feng. It didn't leave immediately. What's wrong with this golden owl? Wang Dong asked doubtfully. Don't tell me it's lusting after you? Teacher, how long has it been? Has his soul beast already fallen into his hands? Wang Feng shook his head, but didn't say anything. This golden owl seemed to have been infected by the dark energy of evil beasts. Otherwise, it wouldn't have attacked Long Xie so crazily. However, the infection wasn't deep, so it was only slightly affected. Wang Feng absorbed the dark energy on the golden-headed owl's wings through the 7 purple origin veins. This golden owl probably didn't want to leave because of this. Wang Feng wasn't surprised that these soul beasts were infected by the evil beasts. Many soul beast forests had traces of evil beasts. It was normal for some soul beasts to be infected. That golden owl is female. Wang Feng flicked Wang Dong's chestnut. Even if someone wants to lust after me, it'll be a female golden owl. Wang Dong hurriedly covered his forehead with his hands and giggled. This teacher was really quite interesting. After a while, the golden cat eagle left. Boss, this place doesn't seem simple. Long Xie sniffed and said, I sense a familiar scent, but I can't remember. It's the aura of an evil soul beast, and it's not just any evil soul beast. Wang Feng pondered. There should be some powerful evil soul beasts in this purple maple forest. It was very likely that it was a spiritual type evil soul beast that had blocked all spiritual senses in this area. Little rat, don't use your spiritual detection skill. Be careful not to be discovered and suffer a backlash. Xiao Tao, lead the way. Wang Feng pointed to the front. Hui Yuhao hurriedly nodded. Ma Xiaotao also went to the front and surrounded the 4 guys. Let's talk while we walk. Wang Feng continued. Long Xie, you're too big, and you scare away soul beasts too easily. Let's return to the soul realm first. I'll use my aura to attract soul beasts and introduce them to you. No problem. The group walked forward slowly. Wang Feng released his aura, and as they walked forward, he slowly attracted all kinds of soul beasts. Being a soul charmer isn't just about finding a soul beast. Wang Feng said to the others, being a soul charmer is also a fighting profession. One's own strength is important, and so is the strength of the soul beast. However, one can only unleash greater strength when the two are combined. Therefore, this involves the complementarity between the two. It's simple. If you're good at attacking, you can find a soul beast that's either auxiliary or defensive. If you're good at defending, you can find a soul beast that's strong in attacking to make up for your weakness. Or you can strengthen your strength. Of course, it depends on your own situation. Wang Feng pointed to Wang Dong and said, for example, your radiant butterfly goddess is a strong beast soul, and you're also a flying-type martial soul. You're quite strong in both close-range and long-range combat. For your first soul beast, you can find an auxiliary-type plant-type soul beast, such as the 7 fragrances grass, or a control-type plant-type soul beast, such as the purple smoke vine. It'll be very helpful for you. If you find a soul beast that's strong in attacking, you'll be overused because you already have a strong offensive power. Unless you take a single extreme attack path and simply maximize your own attack power, but this will have many weaknesses. Therefore, it won't be too late for you to find a soul beast that's strong in attacking for your second and third soul beasts. Wang Dong nodded. Wang Feng's words were easy to understand. Like Hikaitu and Xiao Xiao, Wang Feng pointed to the 2 of them. They're both auxiliary-type soul masters. It's best if you can find a soul beast that's both offensive and defensive. If you can't, you'll have to give up on attacking. You'll have to choose defense. For auxiliary-type soul masters, protecting themselves is their strongest attack against their enemies. Furthermore, Hikaitu's soul tool possesses a strong offensive power. You'll have to find a defensive-type soul beast for your first soul beast. You can also choose a control-type soul beast to strengthen your auxiliary abilities. Xiao Xiao pouted. But teacher, I have twin martial souls, and I'm also a control-type soul master. Wouldn't it be better if I were to work with an offensive-type soul beast? That's why it's best for you to choose a soul beast that's both offensive and defensive. It's just that this type of soul beast is relatively rare. Wang Feng explained. I wanted to find a defensive-type soul beast on my way here. Hikaitu chuckled. It doesn't matter what it looks like. The most important thing is that it's sturdy enough to be able to withstand the load of a soul tool. Generally speaking, this type of soul beast has to have a strong defensive power. Hikaitu's words were very clear. You're a big guy. You're already this strong. If you find a defensive-type soul beast, won't you become even stronger? Xiao Xiao glanced at Hikaitu. Be careful that no girl likes you in the future. Don't worry. There's so many girls. There are bound to be a few who are blind. Hikaitu scratched his head embarrassedly. Xiao Xiao was speechless. The few of them burst into laughter. They didn't expect the seemingly honest Hikaitu to have such a humorous side. After walking for about half an hour, Ma Xiaotao, who was in front of them, stopped in her tracks. There's movement. Ma Xiaotao raised her hand. Following this, circles of soul beasts surged in from outside. Don't worry. I purposely lured them here. Wang Feng waved his hand. There are so many soul beasts in the forest. How long would it take to find them one by one? Don't even talk about nurturing feelings. These soul beasts aren't very old. Most of them are only 100 years old. There are a few thousand-year soul beasts. Just be careful. Wang Feng looked at the soul beasts surrounding them and swept his gaze over them. There were a total of 20 to 30 soul beasts. Wow, this little rabbit is so cute. Xiao Xiao suddenly looked at a little rabbit that was glowing with a purple light. Teacher, I want this. This rabbit was indeed very good-looking. Its ears were very thin, and they would swing back and forth as it ran. Its eyes were black, and there were a few faint black patterns on its back. In a chapter that you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.